population watching us duck it out, and they don't actually engage in it themselves. So it's all about the outsized influence of a small percentage of people, us, and well, the vocal left, I guess.
Yeah, we're inaudible to the audience here, apparently.
Okay, yeah, I think I fixed the audio now. God damn, I missed the one. Okay, guys, you have to send more than one message that says you can't hear people who aren't me. Paulo mentioned it one time. Nobody else did, okay? You guys gotta spam it.
Right, so I guess just to synopsize what we already said, feminist, non-feminist cooperation spiral, copes, are we actually winning? I don't know, cope tube, all that stuff.
Nick Redding made a good video about
that's the term
strategy.
that I use.
I think I vaguely remember that video, but
what's that?
I think the Nick Redding video you guys had mentioned. I think I vaguely remember it, but
yeah, that video.
I remember was talking about it. I think.
I mean that video could have been that could have been like a whole bunch of copes, but it gave me inspiration to really just use YouTube and use all these platforms to kind of like show people how absolutely psychotic the left is, and in a way that the right just simply is not. But again, like where we're at now, it might have just been cope tube, just like, oh, look at how stupid this Trigglypuff looks. We're winning when we're not,
Yeah, cope maxing, to use the incel phrases.
Well, and the problem too is that since so much of the appeal of calling out SJWs and feminists and people who are so crazy was just kind of this like momentary, fleeting, entertaining spectacle, the moment anybody who's like anti-feminist or like a Trump supporter or whatever, the moment you see the worst of that side of it, then you have like the counter narrative, and you have this whole problem of like the very very, very, very highly intellectual and very intelligent moderates, right, who get to feel superior to both sides. And since they're not interested in like the bigger picture of what any of this actually means, they're just kind of going through, sniping whoever's the most like emotional or crazy in the moment, regardless of what the larger picture is.
That reminds me, there's also a problem of the sort of and this is what most people in academia are like these days. It's why I could never possibly go into academia, even though like, I considered it at one point. It's filled with these annoying conformists. It's like basically people who get good grades have been encouraged to think that they are wise. Like they've got credentials, and they've been encouraged to think that that means they're really exceptionally smart. And they'll ask you for like I think this is the thing with ۋauš. He's kind of like this, like you got to study for that. That's like his thing. For the most obvious things, it's like they have no reasoning skills. That they don't have any ability to just use their own brains to look at reality. They'll demand like massive studies for every trivial claim, and they don't understand how much like fraud and bias there is in academia. So
I think, well, you know what, I mean, there's another small time YouTuber I want to give a shout out to. Maybe you've seen him. His name's Darren Kern. He came like this dude from Florida. He's got like 900 subs or something. He came up with this phraseology that I like. Just basically all progressives do is lie 100% of the time, without exception. So I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, conservatives, they lie most of the time, or are kind of dunderheaded and maybe mistaken a lot of the time. But I don't think that there's been a single utterance made by progressives in the past few decades that has checked out. And so I think that we might be getting into a mistake here when we say that they're just ignorant or triggered little lambs who need like a dose of reality or a wake-up call. I think that they're just legitimately, just deliberately lying all the time.
Well, this reminds me of Lori Penny recently tweeted out this article she wrote where her argument was basically there is no free marketplace of ideas. That's bullshit. The idea that you have like this discourse and that this leads to more truth, it's completely false. That's not the way knowledge works. It never has worked. It's just a silly romantic notion, and like it's so appropriate for someone like her to have that stance, because that's essentially what these progressive types always say and think, is they think there needs to be like a clergy of of authoritative opinion, and everybody else is an idiot, and we need to tell them what and how to think.
I think they just want power and money for themselves, and they'll engage in any dishonest sort of like, vile, dishonest, sadistic sort of tactics to meet that end, And I think they know that they have the backing of the banks, that, but all of their 501c3 nonprofits are getting banks during corporate funding now. All the corporations are changing their rainbow flag profile pictures and signaling that they support BLM and all that crap, and funding violent street thug agitations. I think that there's
have you seen
liars. I think there's liars who are just trying to like grab power, essentially.
Have you seen that meme where it's like, imagine having the same political views as Burger King and Pepsi and thinking that you're a radical?
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And that's exactly what I wanted to throw out there too. I know I've said it before, but it can't be stated enough times that these people, they think that they're oppressed, they think that they're saying some radical and really really like dissident and destructive sort of a thing, and it's like literally every single corporation is bending over backwards to you. These police, who you think are these horrible violent oppressors, are literally kneeling to you in the streets. And shout out to Claire, who popped into the chat earlier for I love this quote she said earlier of that like basically, should all these cops who are kneeling to these protesters be summarily executed? And I don't know why, but like it brings a smile to my face. It's
and the correct answer is yes.
The correct answer is definitely yes. And I'm sitting here like, man, the status quo. How did we get to the point where secular Coranism favors comparably? It's
By the way, like if it were up to me, I would just go full Iran and just punish all crimes with the death penalty, because I'm just kind of crazy like that. But like,
none of us can ever be in power, because like there'll be so much fucking murder.
Yeah. So did you see? I was just reminded when we were talking about corporate progressivism. Like, Derek, do you remember that thing I sent you this morning? Was it from Paul Joseph Watson, where Google said that they were going to start monitoring all what was it?
Yeah, they're going to monitor for racism in our apps and everything. And I'm sitting here like, first of all, bitch, we know you already are. I know I'm on a list. I'm on the said the N-word too many times list.
Yeah, and if you live in a police state like the great nation formerly known as the United Kingdom, like so Google will log that information and then give it to the police, and then you'll be going to fucking prison, and your asshole virginity will be fucking gone. It's like,
oh damn,
brutal. Yeah.
So in the chat, people are noticing the video I put on screen. This video of these people fighting, and at one point someone literally drop kicks a toddler.
Dude,
yeah.
So there's nothing really to comment on it, but I added it to my list of things to bring up.
I love
it's a systemic system of ageist violence.
This is a systemic system of ageist anti-toddler violence.
Yeah.
Well, and the woman getting her ass kicked, she's a light-skinned black woman. So
yeah, I was gonna say I love how you were just describing them as people and not being any more descriptive than that.
Just nondescript, humoid shapes.
Yeah. Floyds.
I like that. It is
I think it
mostly
was.
women, although the one who attacks the toddler is, I think, an adolescent male. So
Yeah.
yeah, here it's right. Oh, there it is. And
But
like I
yeah, it was.
hate that too. There's so many videos, like just like the one you guys remember. I hate that everybody's calling them Karens. I hate the way that the mainstream people have hijacked that term. But
Oh,
like
it's
there
so
was
lame.
it's super lame. There's the woman and her husband who were confronted in that parking lot of, I think, the Chipotle one, right?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'm actually mixing them together. Because there was a separate one where it was like she was trying to get into a car, and like what the thing I hate the most about these kinds of videos is when like you have this like ratchet mother who's barking at someone and hitting them, and then her child will emulate it and start hitting the person also, like because you see it all the time, and it's like you're literally watching in live action the corruption of innocence, and that like this is what's being modeled to them, and then they're literally doing it, and it kills me. I hate it so much. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's very brutal.
Actually, yeah, no, that was the part of the Chipotle one too, because there was, I think, at least one child involved in it. I don't think he actually like perpetrated any violence, but like there's this whole thing where like this just like it's all like sneak attacks and cheap shots and ganging up on like one person. Like I think we need to make dueling culture great again. Like
They don't
if
have
we're
any
gonna
honor
all
though.
be,
They
yeah, if we're
don't.
gonna be a bunch of violent savages, can we at least have a couple of rules?
Man, they don't have honor. I mean, they have this like flurry of blows, like 6-on-1 from behind, just like this, you know.
Yeah, it's the way
It's just
Antifa fights too. You know, their whole thing is they and it's I remember Andy No did like a breakdown of it where he's like, they do it in a calculated way. The first thing they do is they distract you, then someone else comes in and blinds you, and then a third person comes in and does, and then they actually get in their blows, and it's very, it's like that, it's like they're playing a freaking MMO where they're all spec'd for their particular fuckery. And it was just quite, it's terrifying because even if these people are a bunch of like the soy boys and like weird shaped fat chicks and all kinds of things, like with the right strategy and the right numbers, it doesn't really matter, you know. And it's just I don't know, I don't know where I'm getting at. Just like like we cartoonize it and make fun of them, right? The whole meme that like when the boogaloo happens, like it's obvious which side should have an advantage, but um,
What do you think it is with like what is it with like the open-mouthed soy boy grin thing, since you mention it, where like they insist on like doing that stupid open mouth grin where it looks like they're waiting to be orally raped or something. It's just like I like do
like
they not
when they're presented with a fact or something, or when they're about to strike, or what.
when they pose in
well
photos, they do it often. It is
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's a
Oh,
weird phenomenon. I think there's a couple of things. Part of it is it's sort of like a failed attempt at kind of like an ironic humor, right? As that they're trying
Yeah.
to kind of act out like being shocked or being wowed or whatever, but they're not quite hitting the mark because like models have skill in manipulating their faces in very particular ways, and actors, right, have this. It's a skill that's developed, right, and like the average person can't really do it, and they're trying to do this kind of like phony sort of a thing, and it's missing the mark, and that's where you get that really awkward kind of cringe. So I think that's a huge part of all of it. But then
right.
that doesn't really
It's
answer
like
the
they're
question of
all.
why it's them in particular that keep doing it.
It's just like acting. It's acting, and back to all progressives do is lie all the time without exception. It's all they
Yeah,
do. Like everything down to their facial expressions, their social associations, the things they claim to believe, everything.
I think that maybe that does kind of square up the circle. I think that probably does explain it, but Man, that should be a stream,
Yeah.
just soy face compilation stream and just making fun of them. I don't know, for some reason that's like where my mind is at these days. I just like want something it's simple. I
I
think because
love
of all the
Coke
fucking
Tube. I love Coke Tube too, you know, but
yeah,
I
just
love
like
Coke Tube as well. But that is kind of where we're at, and that's where we've been for a few years now. You know, yeah. So
yeah.
I don't
Well,
really
people
know what
ask me.
to
They say like if people talk about who should win the election or whatever, and I'm like, well, Hillary Clinton should win. That's the best path for America. And I'm sorry, but you know, the Republicans aren't gonna fix anything, so you might as well just like let the Democrats have their government so that they stop killing people in the streets indiscriminately and stop burning things down. And then we're just gonna slowly accept the encroaching communism onto America because it's endemic at this point. There's absolutely no will to fight it. So you know, it's a game of hot potato, and I want to make sure that the biggest, most unscrupulous, corrupt communist in the room is the one holding the hot potato when the game's over.
I mean, like, you know, if I think Trump's gonna win again, and if Trump does win again, like the chimping out in the United States is gonna just ascend to never before seen levels. It's gonna be insanely brutal.
Oh my god, I know. I can't. I don't even want to think about it. And honestly, Spiritual Man says, "Is this a libertarian circle jerk?" I'm sorry, Spiritual Mamzer. Everybody who's a friend of mine has libertarian inclinations. Although, actually, I don't know. I guess you technically identify as somewhat left wing, but your stance is a little bit more complicated.
I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place, but yeah, I am, I guess, skeptical of state control. So in that sense, I guess you could call.
I'm definitely not libertarian, dude. I think that Antifa, BLM, and feminists should be systematically rounded up, put in fucking camps, dude.
Well, but here's the thing. I kind of think that too, but I still consider myself like anarcho-capitalist because I feel like they violated the NAP. So fuck them. I'm a lot
Capitalists, as we
more.
now observe, capitalists are funding their street thug bullshit. So the
Well,
capitalists kind of need to be
yeah. I
rounded up
mean,
too.
they're corporatists though, right?
I don't know. I mean, either way, it's kind of they, something authoritarian's got to go down. I think, you know.
But yeah, Redundant Towel says everyone is libertarian to an extent, and that's something I believe, right? Because like you're never gonna find someone who just flat out is like, no, I'm going to just steal people's property and murder them when they haven't wronged me. Literally, like every single narrative, whether it's secular, religious, whatever, they always use a threat narrative to justify their violence, and I believe that this is because everybody is kind of implicitly accepting the non-aggression principle. What the fuck is the nap and who's gonna take it? Thanks, Hyperbole. Cause it's NAP is like a nap.
Hardy har har.
Anyway. You had okay, so I wanted to make sure we got into some of the recent videos that you've brought up here. I'm gonna pull up your channel here. I should have looked into more of them, but I was explaining kind of before you guys had hopped onto the call that like your videos they're a lot more outrageous than they appear because some of them they kind of need a little bit of like a contextual setup, right? And sometimes it's a little bit hard to kind of see or hear exactly what's going on because like you're actually like getting real footage of stuff that's actually happening, right? So sometimes I'll be watching it and I won't quite. Oh, you were on the Ralph retort? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, they were a little bit drug, you know. They
Yeah, no, that's you know. I was just listening to their one with Milo that they had the other day, which was extremely entertaining. Why is Milo at Laura Loomer's house? I don't get it. Like, this is fag hag levels that I can't comprehend.
Yeah, I can't believe that this stuff like dropped off in views lately. I guess people are getting sick of seeing this kind of shit over and over and over again. or and the algorithmic suppression, all that crap. But yeah, CopeTube, during the CopeTube days, like stuff like this would get 40,000 to 400,000 hits.
Wait, I'm sorry, I
Now
missed
it's like
that.
we're all getting kicked off.
I mean, like, just sorry to interject, but speaking of CopeTube and criticism of libertarianism, I wonder how Stefan Molyneux is feeling right now after he was expunged from YouTube and later Twitter, because, like, from a libertarian point of view, the only thing that's really going on there is basically private companies choosing to stop doing business with you. Like, so the only thing he can really say in response is to just make an appeal to conscience. And, YouTube doesn't care. Susan Wojcicki, Twitter doesn't care. So,
Well, no, but because this is again the morality and ethics distinction, right? Like, it's technically ethically permissible, but you can make all kinds of appeals within the realm of morality to say it's wrong. But the other issue too is that, like, when you engage with YouTube, they have their TOS, and absolutely nothing that he did violates it. They gave a very vague reason, which I argue doesn't even rise to the level of a stated reason, because they haven't cited where he actually, quote unquote, like actually should have violated it, right? Where they said it was hate speech, and it's like,
well,
it
Derek,
clearly
like,
means
the guidelines,
nothing.
the guidelines are purposely vague so that they can just expunge people at will. Like, that's the whole point.
Right. No, and that's yeah, fair enough. But I mean, obviously, if you tell them that, that's not.
I mean, I remember that
They're not gonna
Richard
agree to that,
Spencer
right?
Richard Spencer said this, and I agree that that he said something like it would be good for YouTube to literally just publish a list of words that you're not allowed to use, because then, of course, if they did that, then you could work around the list of words that they've prohibited. You could avoid using them, and dissident voices could still be heard. They could work around them, but that's not in their interests. They want to purposely keep it vague so that they can just boot people off, even if they've, like, never even used a racial slur or anything.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
so
Yeah,
it's
like
so
the guy
shitty and cowardly, I mean, I don't know what else to say.
that guy also an example of that. Like, he got kicked off, and he's like a Boy Scout basically in the way he presents his content. So
Yeah.
there's really no clear-cut standard.
Well, the other thing too, though, is that you have these tech monopolies. They're benefiting from government intervention, right? And then also, the moment anybody tries to create an alternative that's going to allow the spicy content, they run into all kinds of issues, many of which do involve the government. So we're in this situation where it's already not really free market, but has, like, kind of the guise of it. So that's one part of the issue. But, like, in theory, we could just have our separate areas and then just coexist by not actually coexisting together. And it's so funny how often like it's just the solution is there. Just let people segregate each other from each other naturally if that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people are too indoctrinated into like Trotskyist notions of anti-racism. I mean, everybody's basically a fucking commie when it comes to race. It's just irreparable, the damage that's been done, I think.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I make a point of calling out the anti-racists, and people kind of scratch their heads at it because they think like so many people that they want to kind of have their cake and eat it too, right? They want to say, well, I don't support racism and blah blah blah, and the Democrats are the real racists and everything, and
right.
it's missing the point, right? Like I never. It's so
right.
important, right, to let them
to
not let them control the narrative.
The correct response is there is no fucking racism. It's just like some communist bullshit to attack Western countries primarily. You know,
Yeah, well, and
to
even
destabilize.
insofar as it's a thing, right? It's like to give racism this much relevance and power, like it's very, very disempowering to each individual, right? If somebody says, "Oh, I think you're racist," it's like, can you imagine so your personal well-being and your state of mind and everything is contingent on like whether or not I said a Voldemort word, and like how fragile is that, and it just you see
Right.
it exemplified in all of these ludicrous demands that they make of society, right? They're these like ludicrously fragile people because they've conditioned them to be that way, and then the response from that is that they're gonna demand that literally everybody walks a 6 foot perimeter around their fucking feelings all the time.
Well, it's not just the word itself that's scary. It's like the social consequences, obviously. Like, you can potentially be kicked out of your job and so on if people call you a racist. So there's that. It's like being called a heretic, basically, in medieval
Right,
times.
right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a system of anti-racism. Like that's where we're at. That's clearly where we're at. Backed up by the
Yeah.
corporate and bankster establishment and the academic class, Hollywood, yada yada yada, the whole fucking thing.
You know what else
Horrendous.
is what's funny about it too is that these are also the same people who will argue that you're entitled to a job, you're entitled to having like the means of like basic to basically care for yourself and everything, and yet the moment you point out like, hey, this cancel culture is kind of not cool, they'll sit there and say, well, you think that people should have the right to fire someone based on their political view or based on this or based on that and blah blah blah, right? Like they'll immediately like they'll immediately become like fucking Ayn Rand out
Yeah.
one side of their mouth, and it's like
Yeah.
and I think it does go back to what you said. Like they're just always lying. They're always using words as magic spells and saying exactly what they need to say to get the result that they want.
Right. They're mystics, right? They're mystics waving runes around,
Well, and the
basically.
sad part is their magic works.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
wizards are winning. It sucks.
Oh, I see you
Yeah.
have the video of me trying to go get fucking groceries and getting insulted by these guys with their masks on.
Yeah.
I
I'm gonna
pointed
play
out because
through
of the
it
COVID
muted, but
thing.
you can.
I pointed out because of the COVID thing early on that now leftists have an extended justification to wear fucking masks while they go fuck with people, like for a long time. You know?
Yeah, yeah, no, and well, and the funny thing too is they did dance on both sides of that narrative, right? They'll say, "Oh, that's ridiculous, that's paranoid," but then also you saw, I think there was an article or was it like a law or something that said that if you're part of a group that could be perceived as being criminal, then you don't have to wear a mask. So
What the
literally
fuck?
the consequence of the law was if you're white you have to wear a mask, but if you're black you can choose not to because people are gonna assume you're up to no good because you're black and therefore you can choose not to. Just like
Wow.
they didn't state it that bluntly, but I'm gonna put the audio on here just so we can hear what these guys are saying.
Bougie upper middle class.
Sorry, I'm gonna go back a little.
Yeah, so sometimes I put the clandestine cam on when I go out
Bougie
because I
upper
know
middle
that
class
sometimes I'm
pieces
gonna
of
get
shit
fucked
playing
with
bougie
while I'm
upper middle
outside.
class games.
So luckily this time, or unluckily, this should happen.
Yeah, you just happened to be recording with these. So wait, so what were these guys? These guys were just hanging out there, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They were fucking. I was just walking down the block and I saw them sort of mugging at me. You know what I mean? Sort of acknowledging me. One of them busts his phone out or whatever, presumably to, I don't know, maybe thought he was going to take a picture of me. But I said good evening or good afternoon, gentlemen, and then they just started in like laying into me verbally.
Wait, was this
And
because you weren't wearing a mask?
no, it's because I'm Duerst the Wuerst.
Oh, because they recognized you. Okay.
Yeah, dude, like on a semi-regular basis, I get soy boys fucking with me on the street, dude. You know, like, dude, I live in, well, you know, like the only city that I know of, the only major city that I know of that had two socialist fucking mayors, right? And we're like very diverse on top of that, you know.
Well, because you're in Minnesota, right?
No, I'm in Milwaukee.
Oh, I don't know why I thought Minnesota. No, that's right. You're in
I
Milwaukee.
I
Well,
did
just
live
because
in
the way you
Minnesota. I lived
described
in
that,
I
because
did
we got fucking the B version of Justin Trudeau as mayor of Minneapolis.
I did live in St. Paul at one point. I lived at like Frogtown. I lived there, and I lived in South, or, you know, Longfellow neighborhood, and then I also lived in Dinkytown for some time. But yeah, I mean, they are extra lefty up there.
Yeah.
Very absurd lefty.
Oh yeah. You know, oh yeah. I know. That's where I'm from and have been and went to college, and
But,
it's
you know,
terrible.
Milwaukee is incredibly blackpilling. Like I've been scheming on how to get out of here, but I'm just not sure exactly where I can go to hide from it. And you know, the whole idea, I guess they call it white flight. You know what I mean? But it's like it's eventually going to come to a point where that's not going to work. You know, because we're not standing our ground. Or just anyone who's not a soy boy, a leftist idiot. You know, people aren't really standing their ground enough. But yeah, I mean, Milwaukee might be like 50 years, 100 years too late to save.
Yeah, and it comes back to that so often, where you say, "How can we save America?" And it's like, well, it all started in the late 1800s, when in the first state they gave women the right to vote because they wanted to get more women there, and it's like. And it's like, seriously?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you know, you fucking tell me. Like, like, give me a counterexample. I don't know what to do. These guys, they must be brothers. Their faces look like the same. This is a funny thing about masks.
Well,
People like you'll talk to them and interact with them before they reveal the other half of their face, and it like will often be like not at all what you expect. With these two guys, I'm expecting, you know, the open, fake, shocked soy face underneath, which that's the real crime that the masks are concealing, I think. But anyway, there's I'm just gonna play the next like 30 seconds or so of this.
That's all you fucking are. That's all you fucking are. That's all you are. Take off your mask, dude. You want to talk some shit to me? Take your mask off.
Suck my dick, idiot.
That's homophobic, dude. We're gonna cancel you now. Oh, let's cancel this guy. Let's cancel him. Cancel culture, dude. Colluding with the fucking owner class to get working class people fired. Yeah. Yeah, we love that, don't we? We love that, don't we? Get the fuck out of my town, motherfucker. You guys suck. Accosting me on the street. Accosting me on the street with your cowardly ass fucking masks. Go fuck yourself. Got him. Oh yeah, where am I from? Yeah, you done your homework, scuzzbag. Where am I from, huh? You done your homework. Got these motherfuckers on, got their faces, got them.
Try, bitch.
Yeah, so I guess the first part of it, yeah, they're being. Yeah.
So yeah, they claim to know stuff about me, but they always get it wrong. Like, yeah, he's across the street trying to say like we know all about you, and then he gets the city where I'm from wrong, and
yeah, and it's just. I don't know. I'm a little bit just like kind of speechless. Like I remember like out of curiosity, me and my friend went to look at. There was a protest and scheduled counter protest related to, I think it was some immigration thing or whatever. And like we went there just to kind of see the spectacle, because like we weren't working that day. We figured, hey, like there's like let's see what's happening. But my friend was wearing a Pepe shirt. And, like, just because he was wearing that shirt, we were confronted by these, like, Antifa retards who, like, basically, like, they threatened to beat us up, like, because they didn't like his T-shirt. Like...
oh yeah,
Total,
yeah, that's fucking tough.
I'm back. Should
I
I?
know,
Yeah, and
I know
it was
people
on
who've
the
been
same
fired.
block where there were cops too, and the cops were keeping everyone separate by forcing the protesters to stay inside the Capitol building while the counter protesters surrounded it. And that's the classic thing that the cops fucking do is they collude with these just terrorist soy dipshits and
Yeah,
essentially and it's infuriating, and that's why like when people said, oh, defund the cops or whatever, like obviously I think these retards aren't the ones to do it, but I have a little bit of sympathy towards that because I mean it seems like a lot of them, they're not performing their basic function, and you're seeing all these people who like the cops are very good at prosecuting all these people who defend themselves, right? They know which side to be on to not have repercussions.
right.
And it's
I
like,
have
yeah.
I have a whole playlist of videos that I titled it "Cops Siding with Antifa," and I've basically made compilations of just from across the country in my travels, like of cops either just sort of deferring to or treating them with kid gloves. One of the common things I'll see is Antifa will be obviously like the aggressors, right? And like someone like me or Tim Pool or whoever will be standing there trying to record it, and the cops will basically say, "Hey, don't provoke them." I have this on camera like multiple times. Like, you need to get out of here. Don't provoke them. It's like, and meanwhile, you see this like crazed, like Antifa masked psycho walking around with some crudely shaped cudgel in his hand, ready to bash someone in the fucking face with it if they wore a Pepe shirt. But yeah, don't provoke them. Don't provoke them. It's like, why aren't you arresting them and beating them down to the ground? You know, like what's going on here?
Hell yeah,
So
like
I have,
make treason great again. If we're gonna have a government, like shit, like do government
Yeah, like
things.
if this had been in Nigeria or Saudi Arabia or something, the police would have just killed all these people by now, and like it would be fucking over. You know, I'm just saying.
Or like that video of Pussy Riot in Russia where like they start their demonstration and literally within like 10 seconds the cops just like start beating them and then they immediately disperse.
Lol.
yeah, wondrous.
That's the job. You know, Toto had a funny story. He said that back in February, a black guy held a door open for him, and he said thank you, and then the black guy said "das right" and told him to say it louder, like in a threatening way, as if he'd wronged him.
Like, that's right.
Brutal.
Who's opening your door? Black man again. That's ridiculous.
Just yeah, so cringeworthy.
It's also God. Okay, I have some other items here. Let me see what I had. Oh, did you guys hear about the whole Nick Cannon thing?
Yeah.
I was gonna watch his video because I wanted to hear all of it like in context, but I thought it'd be really funny. But I didn't get around to it. But I think the cat's out of the bag on it. Like it is really funny that these like BLM types and Black Power people, they can say anything they want, which I fully support. I think that's wonderful. Like if they want to blame the lesbians and the light-skinned black people and the Jews and like everyone, I'm like, okay, fine, like that's whatever, like let it flow through you, who fucking cares, because that should be the attitude. But this tweet I found of this person, racial consciousness, I don't remember when I started following them. They probably said something like funny and based and then I followed them, but he said it should be against the law to publicly air psychobabble like this. This kind of mentally deficient rhetoric is a detriment and an outright danger to society. Which, I disagree, but I do love the flavor. Like you're too dumb to talk too much because you're making other people dumber. It should be illegal. There ought to be a law.
Yeah, he's cool. He's the guy who's got like the monochrome Chad face as like his avatar.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. With like
But he
the
doesn't
forehead. Sorry, go
He
on.
doesn't work for Feedalodian anymore, does he?
Oh, Nick Cannon worked for Nickelodeon. God, that's funny. I hate that.
What's that?
I hate the word or name canon spelled with 2 N's because I feel like it should always be 1 N. Sorry, that was just an aside. I hate like double letters in words. It shouldn't be a thing.
Oh, apparently Aiden Paladin is streaming just now.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
she's old school. She's from that Cope Tube era too. I haven't looked at her stuff in a while.
Yeah.
We met her briefly at ICMI last year. God, she's so little. She's a little girl. She's so little. I couldn't believe how little she was.
Is she
Yeah,
as short as Liz Hobson?
Well, I didn't get to see Liz Hobson in person.
Oh.
Yeah, cause Liz Hobson, she couldn't like catch her flight or whatever for some reason, and they like teleconferenced her in. It was like fucking Natty was there like holding a tablet in front of like a people to be like, here's Liz, and then Liz like saw me there, and she's like, oh hey, it's you, and I'm like, hey.
She's microscopic. She's like 4'11".
She's like a tiny little. Liz Hobson is so small that you can't be sure she's in a room. You have to lay flour down on the floor to see her footprints. She's so little. No, I think
Anyway.
Aiden might be littler. All these little
Like,
women.
Like Aiden Paladin sounds. I mean, she from to listen to her, like she sort of projects like a, like a bigger, maybe even dykier kind of like bigger gal,
Well,
but
she
yeah,
does.
She
She does kind of look like that. Like she has a short hairstyle and everything. And like.
Yeah, I briefly met her at the what was that Mythsys Milwaukee thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Karen Strawn on that as well? Like.
Yeah, she's a babe, dude.
I love Karen.
Yeah. She's a hero.
The moment I knew that I was no longer addicted to cigarettes was when I was at ICMI and I wasn't at all tempted to try to bum a cigarette off of Karen.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was like, yeah.
Very
Like,
nice.
I was like, I'm not that person. Not this time.
I would be tempted to just brazenly just hit on her if I saw her. It would just be so obnoxious.
Well, she's probably used to that. She's probably used to that.
I tried to bully her into telling me what her pen name is for her like smutty romance novels, and she's like, never. Like you're never gonna get it out of me. And I was like, damn, I want that so bad. I was like, I promise I won't tell literally anyone. I just want to know. She's like, never.
I think it is technically searchable information. Like there are some people in her orbit who know, but I guess it's a secret, so whatever.
I want to know. Anyway, I was actually pretty upset that Allison couldn't be there in person because I wanted to see her again.
It's sort of when you see all these female MRAs, it reminds me like there are some people who say that there are problems with modern day politics that are associated with too much female influence, like the doing away with due process rights and the definition of rape basically just being determined by the woman's feelings post hoc and this kind of thing. And while I do agree with that, it isn't obvious to me that the solution is to just expunge women from politics, because there are plenty of men. Well, men will just implement what women want. I think that in the days of yore, like when I think in the past it just hadn't occurred to women that politics should be their domain. But now that women are in politics, it isn't really possible to unmix that cake. And as long as they're there, they're basically the only salient political actors, because male politicians and everybody else will just enact women's will. Like, they just kind of rule the roost. So that's why I don't agree when people say that women shouldn't be political. Like, effectively only women are political. Like, we need edgy women to combat this, because nobody's to combat the current craziness, because nobody's gonna fucking listen to us. Like,
That's actually an interesting angle, right? Because in theory, if you say to women, like, okay, like, men are literally, we're stepping out of politics, absolutely no men are allowed, you do you, here's the matriarchy, like, go ahead, run everything. Do you think, either one, like, there's one of two things will happen. Either women will find some way to realize, oh, it's our responsibility to care about men now and to actually be fair, because, like, we have the reins of power. Or what'll happen is what I think will happen, obviously, they'll find some new excuse for why this is oppressing them.
I mean, I think what would happen is that they would just end up arguing amongst themselves about whose behavior is more in women's interests ultimately, or who's sort of being a handmaiden for the patriarchy and this kind of thing. Like, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
that does seem inevitable.
Yeah. It's brutal.
Yeah.
Because, like, even women who are on our side, well, not that it's specific to them, it's just that, like I said, their opinions are more salient. But anybody on our side of the aisle, because we're pro-male, or that term's an oversimplification, obviously, but you know what I mean. Like, we have to always sort of strategically argue the point from like, it would be better for women if we helped men, this kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that is kind of the problem with, well, one of the many problems with women being centered or platformed in politics is that even the most edgy, spicy, based, and red-pilled woman is still going to pull, Dems are the real racists, Dems are the real sexists, that sort of thing. I can't really think of too many, right-wing so-called, or like based so-called women that don't engage in something like that. Granting the left more and more of their premises as we lose and lose and lose.
Yeah, and like the sort of the impossibly insipid level of discourse that we see in some countries that have, say, female-dominated parliaments is exactly the sort of thing that the anti-suffragette activists basically warned would come to pass. Like, in Finland, I think it is, or Finland or Sweden, one of those, or maybe both. Like, the female-dominated government, they all have to hire assistants.
Nice fucking bong rip, dude.
Yeah, and they're so incompetent that even the assistants have assistants. I'm not joking.
That wasn't a bong rip. That was moving my like wheelie kind of. I had my computer sit on this like wheelie thing. That must have sounded like a freaking.
It sounded like a bong rip. I'm fucking stoned now from hearing that.
I'm trying to get off that fucking pot. Like, I'm stopped for like 2 or 3 weeks because I think it makes me extra paranoid and extra. I don't know, just like less equipped to like combat these people or also avoid them. Oh, I feel like I'm more
with any of the scenarios in your videos. Just the idea of like being high while any of that happens is like, that sounds like a nightmare.
And I think I have been. I think in some of those videos I have been a little bit.
Yeah.
I have been a stoner. I have been a stoner for a while, and that's part of why people are fucking lefty. Because when you get stoned, you open up your boundaries more. You know what I mean?
I was gonna ask if you were using weed as a coping strategy. Like, I
probably.
I sort of do that. I sort of do that with alcohol now. Like, cider is my go-to cope.
I'm drinking cider right now.
Yeah, in the long term, it doesn't really work, I don't think. I think in the long term, it sort of makes more paranoia, more unrest, or self-doubt or something. At least for me with ganj,
Yeah.
And it fucks with your lungs. You're not as easily able to run away from the hordes as they're trying to kill you. You know.
You know, my father was a weed dealer. Um,
Nice.
yeah, like he had weed gardens all over the house, and like I would sit and smoke weed with my parents.
Well, the
Well, yeah,
bullshit thing, yeah, I mean, like now that it's becoming more and more legal, all these same people who were like, "Oh, don't smoke weed," blah blah blah, now they're all like wanting to smoke with you, and that's a funny thing.
right, right. Well,
I
also,
wish we
one
just
thing
get
I've been thinking
over
about
it.
is like 30 of the 50 states are legal now. So, well, once that gets federally legal, or if the vast majority of the states become legal, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how these progressives keep with the institutional racism, like Jamal walking down the street with a blunt, gets roped into the prison industrial complex. Like, what are they going to move the goalposts to when that transpires? Like, even now, it's ridiculous to argue that, given the state of legalization. But once it gets fully legalized, which seems to be an inevitability, how are they going to spin it at that point? You know?
That's a good point. I mean, well, I mean, part of it though is that there will be less of a need to, because it actually will benefit those communities and lead to there being less crime. I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are affiliated with gangs are going to have a lot of complaints, right, when more things get legalized.
I think
I
they're just
wonder
gonna.
if
Well,
maybe
they're
there'll
just
be
gonna
like
sell
a
more.
race to the bottom. You'll have just like harder and harder drugs, but partly
Yeah, they're
I
gonna
have
sell
a
more
little bit of faith
fentanyl
in
and
weed.
crack and stuff.
Yeah, like because I think the points you're making about weed, generally not being good for people, right? I think a lot of that stands up. I think a lot of that makes a lot of sense. I do think though that like just fully legal weed, and frankly, perhaps in some cases mandatory fucking weed, um, from a social standpoint, could actually be a benefit. I guess relative to the status quo, that might be a little bit
Well, how
rosy
docile, like how
glass eyes, but
docile, lethargic, and apathetic does weed make people? You know, like how does it? How I mean, to me, it makes a lot of these people just sort of open their boundaries up and allow for a lot of this stuff and go, well, they'll just be very, complacent, and they'll engage in like false equivocations to sort of like ease their mind, like, oh well, the Catholic Church did something too, or the Republicans are bad too, and then they'll just end up never really addressing anything. And I think it's because they're all fucking just hedonistic and on drugs all the time, And that
Yeah.
that mean I guess I'm describing myself like 5 to 10, 12 years ago when I was a shit lib, but I think that rings true for a lot of people. A
the
lot of
issue
people I've
is that.
known.
Oh, sorry, what?
No, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I think that it partly is a question of who would be doing it, right? Because there's some people who like, they're hardworking people that are productive in society, and that's obviously something that you lose out on when they become a stoner. But then you have people who just like they fucking suck. They can't fucking help themselves, but just like destroy things and to be a detriment to everyone around them. And it's like, okay, yeah, like just like how we tranquilize an animal, we need to sedate this fucker. Like get him some weed so he can hang out, play some Call of Duty and just like chill the fuck out. And like that,
Oh, those
and like
people, dude.
the
I mean,
sad thing is like we almost are at the point where poverty can just be optional. Like the communists, they're sort of right about the one thing, which is that like, yeah, like in theory, we can have a society that just like sustains you being this like retarded couch fucking person that produces nothing as long as you don't like as long as you can resist your urge to fucking burn things down or loot or murder. Yeah, we'll give you your Yang bucks, your fucking UBI, just to bribe you to not be an absolute fucking shit show terrible human being, right? We're almost at that point of extravagant capitalist wealth that we could totally sustain something like that, right? But no, no. Instead, it's people who could be productive and could be, a countervailing effort against all of this just retarded fuckery. They're the ones who are like, I can't deal with this, I need to cope with weed. And then all the violent, thug, criminal assholes are doing coke and getting drunk and burning shit down when, if they would just smoke weed, things would be better.
Yeah.
Dude, I think full-on physical removal and just organ extraction is what we need for those people, man. Just like Japanese World War II atrocities on these motherfuckers, dude. Like that's sort of the feeling that I'm getting on a day-to-day basis. Just I don't know. The people you just
sympathetic, right? Because like things are so crazy that I get the sentiment,
Like I live in a country that literally used to execute people for pickpocketing at one point, down to like the age of 8, and I miss those days. I legit miss those days.
Yeah, right. So if I come in here and I'm like mandatory weed, I sound like a crazy person. But like in terms of like the broader historical picture, that's quite beneficent. That's quite merciful.
Yeah. By the way, Duerst, do you mind if I send you like a blog article on Discord to read later? It's really long, but it's really good and interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
The one you sent me earlier about the OkCupid looks and ugliness was like a roller coaster.
Basically, the TLDR is that so sexual marketplace value and attractiveness are correlated but not identical concepts. So if you think of it as like your SMV is just the pool of people who are interested in you, then how attractive you are as a woman. Sometimes less desirable women actually get more attention from men because men see them as an easy lay. Some people have called it juggernaut law. And then the other thing is that so that's one strategy that men will engage in, where they'll deliberately chase after bottom of the barrel women because they see them as an easy catch. And then the men who aren't doing that, basically moderately cute women, so I guess like 6s or 7s, are preferred over supermodel tier women, like 9s or 10s, because they might perceive the supermodel tier women as having too much value. And even if you're comparing women who have the same value in the aggregate, like women who are all on average like 6s, as in like so that could mean multiple different things for a woman to be, say, a 6 out of 10. It could mean that literally all the men who were interacting with her profile on a dating website thought that she was a 6, thought that she was just kind of cute. Or it could mean that like 6 men thought she was a 10, and 4 men thought she was completely unattractive. And that's another interesting thing, is that it looks as though the more disagreement or the more variance there is in how men perceive a woman's attractiveness, the more attention that woman will get because they see her as an easy lay. So a woman who has, say, tattoos or a hook nose or something like that, because men know that that other men might perceive that as a flaw, they'll chase her all the more doggedly and they'll get even more attention.
Yeah, it's all summed up. I think the entire article really was summed up by this little graph with Garfield on it. I'm just going to zoom in on it a little bit. Where they have a matrix of everyone's interested versus everyone's not interested. And then on the other axis, I'm interested versus I'm not interested. And obviously, if they're not interested, then they're not interested, right? If they are interested, then you have a choice. Either they perceive everyone else is interested, in which case their attitude is, I'll take my chances. But if they perceive that not necessarily everyone's interested, but they are, then, they're more likely to act upon it. So... Yeah.
Like, men understand how high women's value is, basically. and they make all these little sort of game theoretic decisions based on it.
Well, and
It's
yeah, what I
pretty-
found fascinating about it is that the implication is that men understand how correct the incel community is. Like, they totally get that. Yet, like, they'll say literally the exact same shit that the incel community says, all the same black pill kind of things, but they'll find some way to couch it in justifying the situation and saying, but inceldom isn't real.
Yeah.
It drives me insane.
Yeah.
So
and
inceldom isn't real.
Yeah, they think it's not real. You know, just get a haircut in the shower while you're lifting, bro. You know, like
Well, you know, I think that well, obviously most of the guys getting called that are probably not. I mean, right? That's just sort of like a feminist way of sort of, you know,
yeah, it's a
like a
sex
thought
shaming
tactic.
tactic, absolutely, right? And that's
Yeah, so
what we call
getting
the
called that-
femoid Godwin's law. Is whenever you're arguing with a woman, the likelihood she'll make it about sex, you know, approaches 1.
Yeah. Except
You
nobody
can throw it
says.
back in her face. You can throw it back in her face and just be like, "Those are your nags. You're hitting on me right now, bitch. Not a
Yeah.
chance."
Nobody really says femoid though. Like, people just say foid.
Yeah, I know. Well, I feel like I'm halfway between, so I have to use femoid to help. Because if I say foid, they'll be like, "What?" I'll say femoid, and then they're like, "Was that a way to dehumanize women?" And I roll my eyes like, "Yeah, obviously." Like,
Oh my
you say
god,
foid, there's no chance
dehumanizing
they'll get
women.
it. Yeah, I have a trigger warning, Matt. Also, I just want to acknowledge Fleegan's on the call too. I would have
Hi,
sent you the
Fleegan.
link earlier, but I had the beginning of the stream was pretty rough with me being a retard. And I eventually got around to getting my link everywhere it needed to be.
Okay,
But yeah, like,
Homer.
I just wanted to mention this because Duerst, I don't know if you saw this study that went out recently, but this is basically in line with a prediction that I had made. So 31% of, I think it was 18 to 24-year-old men in the United States, 31% report no sex in the last year.
Right, yeah.
So-
So I mean, and some percentage of that might be people who aren't quite that interested in having sex all the time. I get that maybe that's marginal for that age group, but so there's that. There's the vol cell to subtract, but then you also consider that should be men who are at their, as far as their looks concerned, their looks prime, right? Which to some degree might be offset by having more money and status later on in life, but
Nope.
largely the effects of that are, I think, exaggerated. Well, no, there's some slight percentage of a chance that that's offset, maybe.
To
Well,
an
I don't know.
extremely, like, the whole sugar daddy thing, like, honestly, that's a really marginal phenomenon. Like, the vast majority of women do not want anything to do with men who are like twice their age. Like, the average age gap between men and women in relationships is like 2 years, not 20 years or 10 years or even 5 years. So
Right. So, well, you know, that 30% though, how many of them are just simply, I mean, not just go lift, bro, but like simply just not going out there and, you know, just playing the numbers game, I guess you could call it, just being there, and eventually, mathematically speaking, they will eventually have sex with someone. And that's sort of like,
well,
Well,
the thing
it's
is,
tricky.
the-
It's a
the
tricky
thing about
question,
that is-
though, right? Because the question is, in theory, men could exert any degree of effort in order to get pussy, right? And then there's this question of like, well, what's the limit where we consider like you've tried enough? But then, of course, on the lower bound end of it, like, yeah, there definitely are some that like kind of rough around the edges and could try some things. And I think that in the black pill community, they do have like since they're dealing with these issues, they have some sensitivity to the idea that men are not quote unquote a true cell, right? And they do actually gatekeep within their own community and tell them like, well, here are things you can try. Have you tried this, right? Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean, the thing
But I
you
need
said
to-
about the thing you said about basically vol seldom and just not putting themselves out there, I guess there have always been guys like that. You have to look at what's changed, though. Like, why has the percentage of men who are in this position changed so, increased so precipitously, who are in this position in the last couple of decades? And regarding money and status, just throwing this out there, you know, I think low income is correlated with basically sexlessness, but that's always been the case. And again, if you look at the change over time, like the United States, in terms of its unemployment rate, was in a much worse position in 2012, I think, was when unemployment was at its peak. But inceldom has continued to rise, like according to these figures, even though unemployment has gone down. And if you look at Finland, which is a place where the unemployment rate has basically been steady for a very long time, it's been like 6 to 8% for 20 years, pretty much. You see exactly the same trend there. So it looks as though it is, I mean, in terms of the percentage of men who are sexless, incel essentially. So it looks as though it is a function of social media, technology, and it's mainly about looks. Looks are the name of the game in 2020.
Also, if you're like a right-wing kind of guy, you can get kicked off of the dating platforms too. I found that out the hard way because Facebook and fucking Tinder, I believe, are connected, right? So I think that if you get banned off of Facebook for naughty speak enough, they'll just fucking axe your Tinder profile. That's fucked up now. You know.
Because I've been I've had a Tinder account, right, and had been banned on Facebook like dozens of times while having a Tinder account. But then I didn't get banned on Tinder until I visited America. And I think that some like pansexual or like trans person or like crazy genderfuck person happened upon my profile and saw that the anthem, right, the Spotify song that you're allowed to link to your profile, I like white girls fuck dogs was there, and I was like, that's super funny. I'm gonna put white girls fuck dogs as my song on my profile, right? And I think that somebody saw that and they were offended, and then I got reported, and there's no like appeals system. They don't give you a reason. Your account's just like nuked, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, Tinder's not fucking around.
May I just add something? May I just add something quite interesting and important?
Yeah,
to
this is
many people
Jay
seem to
Willie.
gloss
So
over
Duerst, this is
equally.
our South African friend also. So now it's a party. Anyway, that's why I did. That's my introduction.
Nice party. Thanks. I really appreciate being introduced. But that makes sense because then I'm going to introduce very important things that people talk about. So many guys have a hard time getting sex, and I'm like thinking like, and I basically have a very hard time to empathize with that, because the reason why that is because society tends to be, a lot of people being more focused on getting sex rather than getting proper relationships like marriage and family, right? So if someone is about to get girls to get sex, right, rather than to have a wife or a girlfriend, right, then I don't really have much empathy, because I think that going out to try to have sex with someone is wrong. I think that's degenerate, right? I don't think that should be done. And the society that accept that as the norm, and that you can just go out to get girls to get laid, I think that's not good. I think that's bad to do, right?
Like, I mean,
if you want to get girls to get
the distinction that you're making, like those 31% of guys, it's not as if, you know, they're sexless, but they do have girlfriends or they have people that they're courting or looking to marry. It's like they don't have any of the above. It's just that sex is like the yardstick, I guess. Like, if you've had sex with someone, it means that you're able to have intimate relations with a view to then maybe getting married or whatever it is that you want to do. And a significant percentage of guys just are not getting to that yardstick. And it's something that's easy to measure because you can just ask, like, have you had sex in X amount of time? So.
Oh, that's true. But a lot of guys, like at least like me, right, who are so are very disinterested in having sex without being in a long-term relationship, right? So a lot of guys and women, right, might say like, "Oh, you have sex?" And I said no, because if somebody will go ask those men and those women if they want to get fucked, right, literally, then they would probably say no because they think that having sex with someone that they're not in a stable relationship with is wrong. And I believe that that is a very good sign of in a way rather than anything negative. But if people like to, I just want to get laid, right? Then that starting premise is like people then they already fail because the beginning premise is a bad one. And that reflects more of a bad thing about society and the way that we have that. If most people thought men was like thinking that that they didn't focus on sex, they just focused on relationship, and the same with women, then women could not then the top men could not sex with 80% of all women, right? That imbalance is because people think of sex as something absent from relationships and marriage rather than something that is that is exclusive to that. And if that was more the case, more how it was before, then the percentage of people being incel would drop. And also the welfare state paying women to literally marry the state and fuck around, that also just makes things worse. So you just remove the welfare state, just kind of fix a lot of the problem. I actually would say that almost all discussion I've ever had with anybody, right, is basically have a problem, right? And the solution to all problems is actually getting rid of the welfare state all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that
It's not
probably the two most offensive propositions is one, get rid of welfare, and two, bring back arranged marriages. And those would probably be two of the strongest solutions to favor inceldom, which most incels wouldn't even advocate for because they're too good.
And like homeschooling and not sending off to public school to get indoctrinated and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's the whole.
Oh yeah, I believe that setting your daughter into public school, I think that's basically misogyny in a way. Might be sound odd, but I do believe that because they're basically indoctrinating girls and doing the opposite of what would make them happy.
Well, it's not exactly a function of the schools, though. It's a function of the social interaction at schools. Like,
yeah, I hate that.
And I'm kind of an old timer, and this was already a thing 20 years ago. But the one girl who fucked an older guy told all the other girls to fuck around. And I always suspected that they felt weird about what they had done until they get the other girls to do the same. It's a weird, like, I don't want to be alone in this weirdness, so everyone has to be weird like me.
Well, that makes sense because that's probably the reason why you are in your country, because at least in Africa, right, people are a bit more traditional. At least in the decent parts that I like to live in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, did you guys hear about
this
story?
That's the reason I get so shocked by all this.
Antifa in Portland, they tracked down and accosted a random Asian male because they thought he looked like Andy Ngo.
Pretty racist, though.
I love it.
Racist.
So basically, here's how it works. If you're an Asian man, if you're fit and in shape, you're Jackie Chan. If you're a little bit chubby, you're Andy Ngo. That's it. There's two Asian men in the world. There's Jackie Chan and there's Andy Ngo. And this guy, it's like, I want to see this happen again, where the Asian guy is like, you think I'm Andy Ngo? Fuck you, I'm Jackie Chan. I'm not fat. Like, who are you calling fat? Fuck you. But I don't know, do you guys think that this guy looks like Andy Ngo? I don't think he does. I mean, I live in a country that is over 90% Asian, so I could see differences in Asian faces, right? But, like, I don't think he looks like Andy Ngo, like, at all.
It might take a while because I don't know what you're using to stream, but the delay is horrible.
Oh, really? Yeah, I know. This stream is just a fucking disaster. This stream is the biggest disaster of 2020. Of all the horrible things that have happened this year, this stream is like, I don't mean that like not it's my fault. Obviously, it's not. It's been good conversation, and we've had some interesting topics too, but I had so many issues getting things set up. I think my laptop it's having issues. It tells me it wants to update, and I tell it can't update. I don't know. Sorry, that was a boring story.
But it's kind of funny.
I just imagine it like as a pet. Can I has updates?
Like, no! Because updates are never good. They're always shit. Every single time. I hate updates. 1000%.
If you could at least only choose to update the security stuff and nothing else. Like if they found a new hole that hackers like to put their programs in, you might want to get that hole stuffed. But enough with the innovator. What did you want to say, J. Willie?
I wanted to say it's kind of interesting that Antifa are like these racists. They basically racially profile all the Asians and target them for violence just because of their race. Kind of interesting. Like, I don't want to go out the left are the true racists, but here's the kicker, right? The mainstream left, right? They are so racist that even people who try to be racist cannot out-racist them, if that makes sense.
I mean, it is, yeah, right? The KKK, what have they been doing? They've been sitting on their hands. This is their moment. What are they doing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Watching the world burn, I guess.
Literally watching the world burn.
And that's kind of what I'm doing at this point. I've given up on all hope of a political solution, and I'm just gonna like watch the world burn because it's
we're in a world post 𝙈𝙄𝙎𝙀𝙍𝙬, who was like the one single most effective men's rights advocate ever, and now he's gone. And I don't. God, I was looking at that video that Warren Farrell had posted in like 2012 of a Donahue interview from like decades prior, and just watching them make all of the same points that MRAs have been always making, and watching this knuckle-dragging, retarded, awful audience just like dismiss all of it, interrupt them, make stupid arguments, like just, and it's like, God, it's so frustrating. I don't know how they managed to like stay.
Did you
like I don't know how they managed to not be black-pilled in all that time.
Was it pretty gender balanced, or was there more stupidity from the men or from the women?
No, the men were. I mean, the women were like as they are.
The women were what?
The women were just as they are, as they'd expect. You had this one woman who was like highlighted in there, and she's like, I'm a mother who works in blah blah blah, and I'm also a feminist, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like she deserves a cookie for being a selfish, awful person. It was just like annoying though. Like at that point, that's water off a duck's back. I don't have a high standard. But then the men are just like, well, the reason we have ladies' nights is to get more men in the bar, as if it's like an argument or a point. And it's and fucking Gloria Allred was on it, and I wanted to die the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
Wait,
anyway.
Gloria Steinem.
No, Gloria Allred. Who's actually worse than Gloria Steinem.
So what else did the audience say?
Oh,
I don't
Lord.
even want to remember it at this point. I don't know why. I just brought it up because it's so old and terrible, and knowing that people like Warren Farrell and 𝙈𝙄𝙎𝙀𝙬 have like lived in that reality for literally decades, and that 𝙈𝙄𝙎𝙀𝙬 got murdered and didn't kill himself is like astonishing to me.
Yeah. Like,
You know what that really reminds me of something? It kind of reminds me of when Aaron Pizzi got those letter bomb from feminists by speaking against what they believe. I think it's like for the same reason, actually.
We can't go too far down that path because he was working on multiple different things, and like any of it could have been related to what had happened. So we can't blame the feminists for this one. I mean, we like in theory, right? Like in the game of Clue, you know, it's on the table, but there's too little information, and there's a very, like, I mean, personally, I had a strong kind of emotional desire to say, yeah, it's the feminists or whatever, but.
Yeah, but this
Anyway,
man had
we
a lot
lost
of
Duerst. I wonder
enemies.
if he had a connection issue or if he had to leave. He hasn't messaged me.
Do you ever think that,
I hope
like,
we didn't offend him. I can't
the
imagine we
only
offended him, but it
the
was nice
only
having
real
him.
the only real solution is that we need to end the universe. We need to end reality and just wipe it all away so that it's like none of this ever happened. Like, if you're being honest with yourself, that's the only solution. And, like, I don't really know how to go about ending the universe, but if you have any tips, like, I'm all ears.
I guess the heat death of the
Like, I believe
universe
it's
accelerates if we keep polluting by just a tiny, tiny little bit.
Oh, well.
But I would
Yeah.
basically say there's no reason to end the universe because I'm pretty much kind of content with suffering forever. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I basically have suffered for so long. Anybody who talks to me in like one-to-one know that I know how it's like to be unhappy and suffering. But some of the few moments I have are good, right? And if I'm about to endure a lifetime of suffering to have these gems of happiness, then so be it. Rather that than suffer all the time.
Durst, we were just discussing about whether maybe the solution to all our problems is to end the universe. Like, I think we need to end the universe. Do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, and dismantle the systemic system of institutional structural universality. Yes.
Yeah, there we go. It's yeah, we don't need to get rid of the
Yes,
whole
very
universe, just the systemic systems of institutionalized systems of oppression.
And universalism.
My
And
my,
that
my
too.
internet fucked up.
Yes.
No, I vote for the Hedonian Matrix. Let's just do that. We just need the Matrix, except it needs to have a positive value judgment assigned to the invading aliens and everything.
Like, if aliens invaded the planet Earth and decided to enslave the human race to suit their own purposes, I don't really have a compelling argument for why they shouldn't do it. Like, if I was a diplomat in that position, I've actually thought about this. I don't really know how I would make the argument to them that they shouldn't do it, because
That assumes though that human labor would be valuable to them, and
Like,
I
I
wonder
actually have.
if like they'd rather just harvest us for something else.
yeah, or like whatever, like, yeah.
Like keep us in a zoo. I think that an alien zoo could be okay, right? Because they want us to be like semi-happy. I don't know.
Yeah, and like they could
No, I actually thought
engineer
of that.
they could engineer a more harmonious social order for us than anything we've ever been able to create. So it could actually be good for us on that.
Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go. Based
so-
in gray man pilled.
Yeah.
Thought of that.
I've
actually thought a lot of like making fictions about that alien species that are like super perfect, right, and are much better than humans in every way. That they are like colonizing and taking over everything, the humans, right? And then they basically decide they're so much smarter than humans, right? So they can basically treat humans as humans treat other animals, right? And then they can rule humans, and they can just point to what humans do when left to their own as reasons to why they should do that, and that will like be make a lot of sense, because they can just point to almost anything, right? Well, redistribution of wealth through a state, that's like one of the reasons why humans are completely inferior, right? That's like a thing that some humans actually believe is a good thing. So
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
strengthen the
There's something I was
argument
thinking
that
about.
alien invasion is preferable to the status quo by bringing up this article I found earlier this week. I think this is the UK. It was the West Midlands Police with hashtag Stay Alert. I don't know what that hashtag even means. They posted a story about let's see. We were alerted to a series of racist messages sent to a footballer today. After looking into them and conducting checks, we have arrested a boy. The 12-year-old from Solihull has been taken to custody. Thanks to everyone who raised it. Racism won't be tolerated. So literally, a fucking 12-year-old playing Call of Duty said too many hurty words, and they've arrested the 12-year-old boy. And I guess
saw
this footballer, he's like a millionaire black footballer, and the government is siding against this 12-year-old. Like,
which government?
Yeah, like I saw the comments on the British government.
Yeah, the 12-year-old boy arrested in connection with racist social media messages sent to a footballer has been released under investigation.
But yeah,
Racism
I saw
has
the
no place in society, and we're attempting to contact the footballer to obtain a statement. Like, can you just imagine, like, adults, fucking professional adults are doing this in their day-to-day life, and how could you not realize how worthless and stupid you are if this is what you're doing? I hate them all.
I can imagine it because I live in it, and like I saw the tweet thread, and there was the most for that the police department that did it, and it was the most blackpilling thing, or one of the most blackpilling things that I've seen, and it has like stiff competition. But there were people in the thread saying like, yeah, we've got to punish hate speech. Hate speech has no place in society.
Yeah, no, I saw that too. Yeah, this guy here, arrest the parents too. He got this hatred from them. And I was like, oh my God. Like, what a fucking
So are you, if you're in England, are you running a risk? Are you running risk even being on a stream such as this, for instance, being in the UK?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, sorry, I should have let everyone know. Like, my channel's definitely on a list. The moment it hits any relevant number of subscribers, they're gonna immediately nuke it. They got a whole catalog. I wanna go into politics just so that the opposition research can like categorize all of the horrible things I've said, because like I don't want to do it because I'm lazy, but like I want to have like a nice index of it all because I'm proud of it. I don't give a shit, but perhaps to my own detriment.
But I just need to add.
I mean, I've kind of just accepted it myself because the technology, like I know that the technology is going to be used against us at some point. And like, you know, you just have to kind of accept it and try not to think about it too much.
Yeah, I don't want to play a game that I'm guaranteed to lose and that's rigged against me automatically. Like, I don't even want to dignify the game by pretending that there's a way, right? And I'd rather go down with the point that I reject the entire framework. And I guess I've been lucky enough that I'm able to not die or be canceled in a way that matters.
Yeah.
But, yeah. To the earlier point with the hashtag Stay Alert, wasn't that part of that tattletale Eastern Germany style denunciation campaign started in Scotland?
Oh, is that what it was? So it's a racist thing? It's like Crime Watch, it's a neighborhood crime watch for racism on the internet?
I mean, that's the thing that they do. I don't know if it's hashtag Stay Alert. I thought it was connected to that.
It's over.
But here, I just need to. It's actually kind of interesting to see that. Like, I basically we get more and more and more proof that means that we were always right. We who said anti-racist are idiot, anti-racism is horrible, racism is not bad, anti-racism is a million times worse than racism could ever be. And we get more and more and more proof there's nothing wrong with racism. Anti-racism is the worst thing ever. It's so horrible. It's like cancer. Anti-racism is the worst.
Yeah, you take a harder stance on that than I do.
All anti-racists are evil.
Like I prefer the indifference, right?
Yes.
I prefer to not even have to care about racism. But like, if people want to be racist, I'm like, well, if it's funny, if it's funny, if people want to segregate themselves, that's great. I don't, it's a problem that solves itself. Humans are like, oh, I hate these people. I don't want to deal with them. I'm gonna go make my own society. It's like, okay, great, problem solved. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Anyway, sorry, Duerst, what were you gonna say?
Perfect. And but it's like I will basically. The thing I would like to say also is that I don't think racism is the best thing ever, but racism compared to anti-racism is not bad at all. Like anti-racism, that's the problem. That's the worst thing ever, right? Racism, even if I would dislike it, I cannot dislike. I don't have a problem with racism inherently, some types of racism, right? But anti-racism is so much worse. Anti-racism is horrible. Like, I don't like racism, but I dislike anti-racism far more than I could ever dislike racism.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is any example that anyone can give of racism being bad and racism, then whenever the anti-racists perpetrate all of these things, people argue that it's justified.
Yeah, but that's why they manipulate the statistics in
but then
Germany
they're
right now.
aggressors.
Like, they started counting a Muslim person throwing acid in his female cousin's face because it's an anti-Muslim act, it's a far-right act, so it's a right extremist act, so it counts into a statistic that is associated with neo-Nazis.
Oh yeah. All of the jihadists, they're religious conservatives, right? I mean, technically.
Technically, Islamists are far-right, yes.
Yeah, but
so let's put them in the same basket, the crimes,
True.
so we can all attribute all of those crimes to this white supremacist. They are growing. Like, I don't see it. I just don't see. I see how they change definitions all of the time to make it look like it's growing. Like, if a Muslim sets fire to a synagogue, that's a anti-Semitic crime. Check. No further details needed for the statistic. Move on.
That reminds me.
But I would also like to add is that if they want to call Islamist.
Well, I just wanted to mention that one point that I've been
like
constantly
if they want to call
making
Islamist
at people is that whenever anybody mentions police crime against black people, I mention this is actually a gendered issue. It's actually about men and not about black people, right? And I've had people who tell me, well, do you have the statistics to back that up? I'm sitting here like, are you fucking kidding me? like, I was just dumbfounded by that request. That a person would think for a moment to contest the idea that the disparity of like men, quote unquote targeted, or who are the victims of it, compared to black people, that they don't think that checks out. That they'd have any skepticism whatsoever. Anyway, I just had to throw that out there.
There's no evidence that blacks are unfairly treated.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
actually.
Is there?
No, yeah. And actually, you can make similar arguments regarding men too, right? As you argue, well, men are going to commit more crime, and therefore that's why, right? But I'd argue there's definitely a lot more wiggle room when it comes to contesting the male half of it than the black half of it. But yeah, it's like it seems like police shoot black people about as often as they should. They probably shoot dogs a lot more often than they should, but for black people, it's like about right.
I don't care about dogs. Yeah.
You compare a black man to a dog?
Yeah, I know,
Shit.
right? Shit.
Yo, race. Yo, cancel.
I can't believe Ashley just said he
Shit.
doesn't care about dogs being shot. You're legitimately a psychopath. Dogs are the best. What's wrong with you? Dogs are great.
I mean, like, you just called me a psychopath, which is basically accurate.
God damn. No, I don't think you're a legit psychopath.
But it's also kind of important. Wait.
It's actually quite funny because you go, Jay Willie.
Oh yeah, I would like to say something. Okay,
Electrical existence says actually they should shoot the blacks
the
more.
Islamic
Like,
attack
well,
is far
this
right.
year. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there.
But that's actually interesting. That's like the thing that makes sense when they call Islamists attack far right? Which is correct. But neo-Nazis, like Nazis, National Socialists, are not far right. Socialists are not far. What? That's so fucking dumb. Like, what? It makes no sense. Oh my god. And also, like,
yeah, it's almost as though they have a spectrum, which is supposed to measure one variable, but then they use it to plot out multiple different complex things, and that it turns out to be totally arbitrary. But since it's complicated, you can get a political science degree, and therefore everybody who doesn't get it is just a big fat dum-dum, even though literally the fucking point of a spectrum, by definition, is it's a graph that measures one variable. Sorry, this is my white whale.
But it's also kind of interesting because I had this when people wanted to say that nationalism is somehow racist, right? And that they're somehow like right wing, and then people say like, well, some nationalists are not right wing, and this is how the literally said this. Well, unless someone like the SMP, they are nationalists, but they are not Nazis. So I guess that they are not right wing because they are not socialists like the right wing nationalists. I was like, what the fuck? Are you an idiot? Really? A person really said that? I'm like, what? So he said it, or he or she, several people. Nationalists that are far right are socialists, but nationalists who are on the left are not socialists. Like, that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And that's like, no, that is almost the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I have heard something dumber.
I mean, just to be clear, going back to what I said, I was only joking when I said I don't care about dogs. Of course, like, they're sentient life forms and therefore valuable in as much as they're sentient life forms. But like, it's just reminded me, you know, when there are those memes about, you know, women laughing in the face of suffering men, or men who have like, you know, depression or something. Like this black woman on Twitter who said something like, what was it? Like the last time a man cried in front of me, I had to force myself to think sad thoughts to stop myself from laughing. Like, can you imagine that? That is just so disgusting. It's
Sheer and utter lack of empathy.
Emotional.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have the exact same feeling for women and minorities, just like bitching about oppression.
But
I have the exact same thoughts about women and minorities bitching about oppression. Like, I have to stifle laughter or stifle just getting like angry with them.
But there are some countries where. Oh, sorry, you go first. Like there are some.
Fine, go ahead.
Wait, do you want to go first, or should I?
I got nothing. Go ahead.
Okay, but there's actually some countries where the whole oppression of minorities makes no sense. Most likely when it comes to, I don't know, Africa. Just throwing out there.
What now?
Like if people are talking about minorities being mistreated compared to a majority, then talking about Western countries while ignoring Africa, it's like makes no sense at all, because like that's like an African problem rather than a Western problem. With the exception of France, where that's being a thing, but not go into that. But it's like they completely ignore the mistreatment of minorities in Africa, which is like actually happening compared to the United States, for example.
No, that's just a conspiracy. That's just that's a conspiracy. Lauren Southern debunked it.
Oh no!
Wait, who debunked it?
Yeah, whites are a global minority. It is. It's an interesting point.
And they are mistreated where they are a minority in the country, much more than other minorities.
Because if white people are out of their countries, they're colonizing.
But what if Europe and in a neighborhood where European are a minority, they're still gonna be mistreated by the non-European in the neighborhood. Not all of them, but they're gonna be to a certain degree.
I think it's gonna be really funny when, and by funny I mean like horrible, obviously. But this is the misery stream, so we're just laughing at how close we are to the apocalypse and how terrible everything is. Once whites are a minority in America and Canada and Australia and all of Europe, how long do you think it's going to take before like the non-white majority governments are just going to declare that the white remnants in all these countries are colonizers and then eradicate them?
I think it's going to be.
Oh man!
I mean, like
less
that's
than 100 years, probably less than 50.
But
sorry, repeat that, Ashley.
I just said less than 100 years, possibly less than 50, after they become a minority.
But it's also kind of important to note.
At a guess, I'm just guessing. Like,
That's fine.
we,
I think
we
as long
can't
as the
forget that the people of
Asians
the
are
Middle
smart enough
East,
to perfect the
like
artificial
they are
URI, then
also
there's
white.
hope for
Like,
humanity. Sorry, Jay Willie, I don't know why you always have a delay.
But it's also very different.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault, but I have to acknowledge it. That's part of the issue. Is we have trouble with a conversation because we step on each other's toes because of the delay. So maybe I need to I might need to run my streams in a less anarchic way. Generally,
I think I can try.
It works out really well, except for that one time when somebody hopped onto the Hangouts and started showing Christchurch footage. That was the one time when my anarchic structure didn't work, and I had to have like some level of structure. That was kind of funny.
I'm not gonna lie, like I thought it was funny. Like Toto and I were both laughing our heads off.
Well, also now I think it's funny now that I'm like 1,000% convinced that the footage is fake. But that's another thing. I'm not convinced it's real anymore now that I've looked at it. But anyway, the point is shit, what was the point? Sorry, I got sidetracked. It's early here.
The delay.
What can I make?
I just don't get it. Like,
No, but
now
that
you're
wasn't
in
the
France,
point.
right, Jay Willie?
Oh.
Like, now you're in France. Why is the delay?
Yeah,
so
that's
bad?
something I also want. Like, I'm not in Africa anymore. Yeah, that's an issue, right? That's something I don't get.
Yeah, you used to have a bad delay
finish
when
my
you were
point
in
about
South
Europe,
Africa.
right? Is that the Middle Eastern people, right? Yeah, but the thing I would like to, that's true. But the thing I would like to point out is that the Middle Eastern people, they are also white. So if they were to come into Europe, the white people would not be the minority. If the white people were to be the minority, the majority of people would be of non-European or Middle Eastern descent, which will take longer than just having a non-European majority.
The word white, like to the vast majority of people, is just a synonym for of European descent. Like that's pretty much what it means. Like I wouldn't call Middle Eastern people white. They're Middle Easterners.
But the Middle Eastern
people, yeah, Caucasoid, I guess. Indians as well.
Yeah, Caucasoid is a more accurate, more scientific, more genetic correct label than white, because white is not correct in the way same Caucasoid is, right? But also just to highlight some point about Middle Easterners, right, is that when a lot of Middle Eastern people, right, when they moved to Latin America and South Africa, right, then they were immediately classified as white people and treated the same way. Even so when there were some like this, whites have this and then other people have this, right, different rights in different places you were allowed to live, right? The Middle Eastern people were just allowed to be were just treated as white because they look very similar to Europeans. And also, I will say the word white itself is the only usage, pragmatic value that have is to have an umbrella term for those of Europe and the Middle East, West Asia, and North Africa. Otherwise, I think it's pretty useless.
Yeah, well, and honestly, the terms seem like they're already too broad to begin with.
Oh, black. Have you seen certain Indians?
Yeah,
or Aborigines? Are they also black when they have this same high level of pigmentation? Do they count? Does Lily Singh count as black?
No.
Well, Australian Aborigines really don't look the same as American blacks. Like, I don't know if I'm just
I'm talking
unusually
about
attuned to the difference.
like melanin, like dark skin,
like
not
a pure color standard. Yeah, because like
but pigmentation
that's
as we
misnomer.
I mean, if you go by the pure color standard, then you could.
I was just gonna mention.
You could say that Europeans, Middle Easterns, and some North Africans and East Asians as well. Like you could call them all white by the skin color standard, I guess.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Yeah, because like it's very hard to even.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's kind of hard to even like make out when you see a Middle Eastern or North African person and a European. It's kind of hard to even like tell just by looking at them this one is European or this one is Middle Eastern, because a lot of them, like if I meet a European with dark eyes and dark hair, right, and they meet a Middle Easterner with dark eyes and blonde hair, right, than to say, oh, the blonde one, that's not the white one, but that's the dark hair one. That definitely, if you're like, what? It's kind of like
Southern Europeans, like Portuguese people and Italians and whatever, they're sometimes people from southern Italy. Sometimes they're hard to tell apart from Middle Easterners, but like Northern Europeans usually have a very distinctive look. Like you would never confuse me for an Arab. I'm pretty sure.
I don't want to live in a world where
But something I
𝙈𝙗
was
isn't considered part black. Okay, that's my standard, and I'm gonna start from there and then draw all my distinctions from that starting point. That 𝙈𝙗 is part.
You don't
black.
want to live. Oh right, I
part
see.
black. The Italians are not white. 1000%.
Derek, he's lying. It was always a lie. Like he's not any percentage black. It was just like something he said to like narrative jam SJWs. It's like he's blatantly 100% white.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm joking about that, but yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, so. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I wanted to bring it back to the actual article here, just because there's a comparison everyone's making. Because I guess this same account, this same government account, was tweeting about a comparison of this 12-year-old being arrested over hurty words on the internet. That they made the tweet where they said that they're looking for information regarding FGM, right? And like people are calling them out saying you haven't made any prosecutions, and they literally said education and safeguarding vulnerable girls is the focus. Prosecuting and jailing parents is unlikely to benefit the child. And like it's so ridiculous because all of this shit is documented, right? Like the parents are arranging this, and therefore it's easy to track them down and to prosecute them. And they're like, oh no, that's not going to benefit anyone. And of course, if this is like a UK thing, they're also failing to prosecute MGM, which I have to mention that as well.
Dude, yeah.
So
any form of fucking infant genital cutting should end with a SWAT team coming in and just butting motherfuckers in the skull and saving the kid, putting the kid in fucking child protective services. Obviously.
Yeah, 100%.
No, it would be harmful to.
Yeah,
it would be harmful to take them away from those abusive parents. Come on, like parents are important.
Yeah. But it's okay because they have higher priorities, which is jailing 12-year-olds that say the N-word and drink Mountain Dew when they play Call of Duty. Because it's gamers are the real issue.
Well, they are rising up.
But the FGM thing is
they
kind of a
rose up and
segue
sat
to
back
a horrible
down.
thing I've witnessed. But this is like a segue to the horrible thing that there was a Swiss.
That's because anti-racism is evil.
Swiss documentary about female pleasure, #female pleasure, and they had this. I don't remember which country she came from. She's in the UK right now. 𝙈𝙗𝙎𝙀𝙧𝙚 saying it's so hard to fight against FGM. If the victims were boys, everyone would be up in arms against it.
Oh my god. That's like
fucking evil bitch from hell. I hate her.
Wait, who said that?
𝙈𝙗𝙎𝙀.
Layla Hussein.
Wow.
The daughter of Satan.
By the way, hi Toto.
Oh, hi. Muslims are saying they want to rape me with a bayonet on Facebook because I...
Wait, who? What?
Muslims.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm against circumcision.
It's been a minute since I've had you on a stream, so it's nice to see you dropping by.
Yeah.
And but this time we do have a Duerst the Wuerst is kind of the special guest on this one, so.
Oh, awesome!
Okay, I need to rename the stream instead of worst. I need to make it like worst, like your name is spelled. Anyway.
Worst, yeah.
It's the worst year ever. That's just in the thumbnail, but
Yeah, it's like I think it's spelled like bratwurst, like the sausage. Or
no, it's. Don't you have an E after the U? Like, I always thought, like, wouldn't be Duerst the Wuerst be better? But that's a German thing, I guess.
White people are the masters of
Yeah.
like not pronouncing anything correctly ever, and it's like it needs to end.
That's a
It's just
systemic.
if it was Duerst the Wuerst, it would be first the sausage, and translated from German. But it's too late for that now.
It's Americans.
Well, you gotta thirst the fucking word.
Okay, yeah, I know.
It's
Americans
usually
are the
Americans
worst,
who
I
have
know.
trouble.
Yeah, at least we don't spell color with an extra fucking U in it. I'm never gonna let that go.
Yeah. There's like an interesting story behind that.
Yeah, wider than you, Mohammed.
Not that anyone cares, but like,
jeez.
So like the word, I think what happened is like the word color originally it came from Latin. So like in the original Latin, it actually was spelt the way the Americans say it, like so there was no U, but then it went through into the French language, and the French would spell it with a U, and then I guess in British English,
Couleur.
yeah, and then I guess in British English they just copied the way the French spelled it. And then when Americans were starting like their own dictionaries and stuff, they decided to just excise the U and go back to the original Latin. So it's whatever. Yeah.
So it is funny because the Americans are like right for the wrong reason. I mean, well, I guess not the wrong reason, because saying fuck you to the Brits is, that's fine. No offense, but
Yeah.
that's fine. So, okay, I want to make sure that I at least mention all the articles posted in the
But
thing.
it is kind of a trend.
Okay, somebody had posted, BLM leader exposed. They called whites subhuman, genetically defective, and said that blacks are superhumans. I didn't see the video related to it, but this is like, it's really funny.
This guy was like saying that Jews run the world or something.
I love this shit. Like, I don't know if you guys know about the whole thing of 𝙈𝙬𝙎𝙀, right? And it was like some crazy like what
Yeah, it was
like black Scientology shit where they think that like white people are originated from like a subterranean race of like weird overgrown baby Jabba the Hutt people, and like eventually they had like transgressed against some black people who were like aliens that had like super large brains, and like to appease everyone they like offered like a daughter to the subterranean white race or whatever to try to like appease the relations, and eventually like one of them they're like brothers or half brothers, and like they had different strategies, and one of them like did like a fucking Island of Dr. Moreau situation where they just like bred out people and then like would throw ones that were too dark skinned overboard until eventually they had created a white race, and that's where white people came from. They were just like literally evil personified. And anyway, it's like a fascinating mythology, and I'm guessing that's where these people are coming from.
I actually have a copy of the H.G. Wells novel. Yeah, I have a copy of The Island of Dr. Moreau. It's really short, but it's a pretty interesting novel. Like, I think it was written by it's an H.G. Wells novel. It's like hard to find, hard to come by.
I might actually read that because the funny thing about it too is that the movie that was made, like the movie was a shit show, but like there was a documentary made about the making of that movie, and I watched a video of somebody explaining all of the drama and crazy shit that went wrong. It was basically if the year 2020 were making a movie, that's what the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau in the 90s like literally was. Literally every single thing that could have gone wrong did, and it just degenerated into like actors backstabbing each other, and like all of the extras and like production people just like said fuck it and started having like hedonistic drug-fueled orgies, and like there were tropical storms all the time, and they were trying to film it on set in fucking Australia in the jungle, and everybody was just drunk and miserable and just hated each other. And like less than half of them even like bothered to show up at the film's premiere because they were like, we just burned like millions of dollars to create absolute shit. And like, yeah, it was it's like so funny, and I need to watch this documentary because I'm sure that like there's so many other things that went wrong that weren't explicated. But anyway, maybe I'll read the novel so I can see what the story is actually supposed to be.
It sounds very interesting.
It's so interesting. It's like the funniest freaking thing I've seen all year, besides the Eurovision movie that Netflix made. Which, if you haven't seen that,
was pretty good.
It was amazing.
I liked that movie.
I laughed and I cried. It was so good. I loved it because it takes Eurovision, which is like, it's really hard to explain to people in words why Eurovision is so funny, and it just condensed everything and emulated everything and put it into a story that like makes the whole phenomenon digestible to an American audience. And like all of the parodies of all the different Eurovision entries they made, like they encapsulated and emulated the Eurovision style perfectly. They did like an amazing job with that movie. I was like awestruck by how like accurate the whole thing felt. It just felt so right. It's the best movie I've seen since Terrifier.
There's
Yes, Terrifier.
But there's a very creepy thing about it. Like, in the movie, Iceland should have won, but they broke the rules. And in reality, in the same year, Iceland should have won, but coronavirus prevented it.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
and
that's
honestly,
visionary shit right there.
here's the thing, though. That song in the movie 𝙈𝙎𝙬, if Iceland would send a song like that, they probably would fucking win, right? Like, they had something kind of interesting with 𝙈𝙬𝙧𝙚 last year, and people were kind of sitting there like, maybe this is like a weird side door angle, Iceland will win. But when you look at Iceland's entries, like, almost every single other year, it's like, dude, you guys are like, I'm sorry, you're a B version of Sweden, and that's why you never win. Like, yeah, your songs are always good, they're always decent, but they never feel like winners. And then Icelandic people, they always bitch about having never won, and it's like, yeah, because you don't send winners. Sorry. Anyway, I just had to get that off my chest.
I think Switzerland had to send Celine Dion to win. Like, that's a low win.
Oh, you know what song from Switzerland I loved? I loved Golden Showers. That was a good song.
It was called Golden Shower.
It was It was like shower of gold, right? And then this
Oh my god, that's
absolute
so implicit.
flaming homosexual out there and all gold, and he was like, yeah, it's like the shower's happening, but everything is golden and it's spectacular, right? That's like his vision, and it's just like Terry Wogan's on there, and he's like, oh, that's Golden Shower. It's like, thanks, Switzerland. It's a good song though. I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate.
I'm quite illiterate when it comes to Eurovision, but that puts a little bit of shame in my heart that we did that.
It's a great song though. It's a bop. It's an absolute bop. Anyway, I don't know I guess with this one what else happened? Oh, there's a bunch of murders happening. Did you guys hear about all these murders happening? Somebody was talking to me. They were like, hey, did you hear about the woman who was in a cult and, like, they murdered her children and they just figured the world would end before anybody cared or noticed, but then the world didn't end, and they were like, fuck. Like, now we have to hide these dead babies better. And, like, I'm making light of it, but it's really sad.
Oh.
There's so many fucking murders that I can't even keep track of them. There was the gay Hispanic dude that got murdered because he was wearing a MAGA hat. That happened like this week. Nobody's talking about it.
Oh,
White lady.
you DM'd me that, right?
Yeah, I sent you that one. Well, because I've seen literally 2 people mention it. One was Chadwick Moore, the other was Liberal Hammer. Nobody else is talking about this. Nobody else cares, and it's like remarkable the radio silence that all these Q-tip homosexual news outlets just like don't even care to mention it. Because he was wearing a MAGA hat, so fuck him.
The white lady, the white mother who was ganged up on and killed because she said all lives matter. They said it like she allegedly said all lives matter. What an allegation.
Yeah, like it's a crime. Yeah. That's just like I've said this earlier before that people will just say, oh, they said the N-word.
Right.
And like the majority of people will say, oh, okay, I don't care then. And it's like, I want to have a test for citizenship where we sit you down in a chair and people say the N-word at you, and we monitor like your blood pressure, and if it rises too much or if you have some violent impulse as a result of that, we say, nope, you can't be in the country. Like you can't, if this is how you react to literally syllables, if you have like a fucking 2-syllable trigger built into you that turns you into a monkey, then you can't be trusted in society.
So you're gonna go with the thing test.
So basically,
Just it's not
N-word
hot
test.
metal to blood.
The what test?
An N-word test.
Oh, was that in The Thing?
Thing.
I never saw The Thing. Was that the plot? I didn't know.
If the aliens they get hot, then they expose themselves. The South Park did a parody of that. They heat a wire and put it into a blood sample. Kind of like, am I the only person who has seen The Thing?
I've never.
Are we
I've
at this
seen the
point in
box
history?
art. Remember when like Blockbuster was a thing? And
I have seen
you could
it.
go in and rent movies. I remember seeing the cover.
My
of it.
mother showed it to me.
It's a good movie, by the way. If you ever have time, you should watch it.
I'll remember that one because I've watched like literally every horror movie, and I'm at the point where I'm telling people.
But I
like,
used to. It was actually.
I watched the Human Centipede 3, and actually, the Human Centipede movies, the third one was unexpectedly good. Like out of nowhere, out of literally nowhere, that movie is actually decent.
No shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I fucking I'm a fan of something like Terrifier, but Human Centipede, yeah, I mean, that shit was just meant to hurt people. You know what
Okay,
I mean?
yeah. Terrifier, I think, is
Yes.
actually
Feed
its
her.
first scene. I think is more disturbing than most of what occurs in the Human Centipede movies. But with the Human Centipede movies, it's just like constant. Oh my God, Korea Man said, "What is Human Centipede about?" How are you? You're like the only person who doesn't.
Oh.
We're not going into it.
Yeah, we're not gonna explain it. You can search it up as long as you're 18.
Just make sure it's Google image search with the filter off, and then you'll get it.
Terrifier actually has like a little bit of that, like it has that grind. I mean, like stand up, and it actually builds some degree of suspense and horror. I mean, Human Centipede, like I said, it's just meant to like hurt people and like disturb them, you know.
Oh yeah, especially the second one, because the second one, it has absolutely zero classic horror elements in the sense of like there being a suspense or things being like not revealed or not showed or like even like shock scares. Instead, the main character in the second one is a literal drooling retard who's trying to emulate what happens in the first movie, and he's so dumb and so incompetent, right? That like you see his tools and what he's about to do, and the people know what's happening, and you see it in just slow, gratuitous detail every single minute of it. And it's like it's a spectacle in its own right, the way that they did the second one. By far the worst of the three. But the third one was funny because they turned it into like a horror comedy set in a prison, and basically this like wannabe neo-Nazi prison warden who's just an insane sadistic motherfucker like decides to try it as a way to reduce recidivism. Which like just the concept of it is funny enough and the execution of it is funny enough that like actually the film worked. in a way that's like, when you sit down to watch a Human Centipede movie, you know that it's just degenerate garbage and that you're just the absolute worst kind of person because you're like, yeah, of all the things I can do in 24 hours, this is what my day is. I'm going to watch this fucking movie just for the spectacle of it, just because it's so dumb and gross and stupid, and just that somehow that's where my mind is at. I just want to see something dumb and gross and stupid so I can judge it and feel better, right? And then you watch Human Centipede 3 and you're like, huh, they actually found a way to make that like a semi-decent movie, and like it just blindsides you with the fact that it ended up being good.
I may check that one out.
I would recommend it. I'm probably overhyping it a little bit, but it's definitely going to be unlike any movie you've ever seen.
The first one, I was
on
the first one I was on tour with this fucking band, like playing in a DIY punk band, playing like, you know, house shows and stuff. And you're on tour and you're a little weary from the road and whatnot. So I'm napping on this couch. This house was spent. And I wake up mid-nap and there is Human Centipede playing on the fucking TV.
Oh, that's the worst way
like,
to see the movie. That's
I guess
the
I'm
worst way
strapped
to
in
see
now. I
it.
guess I'm strapped in to watch this fucking movie now. So that's how I watched it. Like I you know, it was basically accidental like waking up to a nightmare, you know. Don't you know?
And honestly, the first movie, just reading the plot synopsis is going to give you all of the value of the movie without having to expose yourself to it. The second one, I guess if you want to really see something that pushes the limits of just like incredulous gratuity and bullshit, it's kind of interesting to see it from that perspective. If that's appealing, which I imagine to the overall majority, that's just like, ew, why would I?
Yeah, that one was the worst.
But the third one, actually, like, you could watch it as a movie, and it has like some artistic merit as a movie. I mean, it's gross, like all the other ones, but like I don't know, whatever.
The first one had transformative quality by South Park making the parody, like, Gary, what
Human
you want me to eat? Cuttlefish or vanilla pesto?
Why won't it read?
Yeah, that one was great.
That was pretty funny. But anyway, let me see what else. What else
That was
happened here? Oh! I included this in the thumbnail, so it's mandatory I discuss it. A Muslim teen filed a discrimination claim after receiving a Starbucks cup with ISIS written on it. Which this screams hoax hate, right? This seems like a hoax, absolutely. I have no idea because I haven't looked into it, but it's funny. But like the idea that like somebody working at Starbucks, they like see a Muslim and they're like, oh yeah, ISIS, and it's just like legitimately because they're like, yeah, fuck this Muslim. Seems like,
yeah, it's not idea either.
Doubt, pressing X to doubt. But like, is her name? Let's see. Her name is 𝙈𝙬𝙎𝙬 with way too many H's. One too many H. I mean, 𝙈𝙬𝙎.
Yeah.
Could that sound like ISIS if you said
that could be just me a mistake. ISIS. It's very close.
And like, oh yeah, ISIS with a silent S. Okay. Like I'm not quite seeing that. It was a barista. Oh, we don't call male baristas baristos. They're baristas. So I don't know if that was a woman. Let me see. It was one that was. Oh, this was in St. Paul. This was in Minnesota. I've probably been to this one. Let's see. This is probably the one in the Midway. This is totally. Oh my God! This is the Starbucks in my favorite Target. This Target store, this is the one that has the liquor store that sells peanut butter porters. And it's the only place in the goddamn world where you can get peanut butter porters that isn't like a proper brewery that has them on tap. Man, I go there all the time. I go there for one thing. I try to get the peanut butter porters. The first time I ever bought them, and I show up at my friend's house, right? And we're going to play Magic the Gathering and drink. And I'm like, hey guys, look what I found. These are peanut butter porters. And all my friends were like, that's gross. Why would you buy those? Why do you think this is a good idea? And I'm like, trust me, I have a good feeling about this. and we drank them, and they fucking, those motherfuckers, my friends, those motherfuckers who are my friends, they ate shit. They ate shit because they had to admit I was totally fucking right in my intuition of believing that peanut butter beer was really delicious. And until this day, I've never tasted any alcohol that's better than a peanut butter porter. So anyway, she was at the Starbucks at that Target and had a drink with ISIS written on it instead of her name. And she felt a lot of emotions, and shock was the main one because I actually couldn't believe this was happening. She told BuzzFeed. This is a BuzzFeed article, by the way. This is the picture.
What?
This is so
the
good.
best journalism in the world.
I love it. I'm sorry, but like, imagine. Okay, I need to move this over. Imagine this happens to you and you don't laugh. I feel so bad
funny.
for her.
I mean,
it's funny.
What if it was just 1-5-1-5?
What if it was just, yeah, it was 15-15? I mean...
Order number 1515.
John Smith says, tragic Muslim on Muslim violence. Well, we don't know that the barista was a Muslim. It was probably a white chick, because have you ever been to a Starbucks? It's always a white chick. So they said it because they hadn't heard her name correctly, but Aisha's the one who said that. I don't know.
Was it always white chicks, or did that only search after gender studies became a thing?
I mean, wait, what did you say?
Like, was it also already white chicks in Starbucks before so many white chicks took gender studies and then had to find a job that they can actually get?
Oh, God, that's funny. Yeah, there's probably a correlation there, but I don't know. I'm just going based off of my anecdotes. But yeah, apparently their official policy is that if they can't spell the name, they're supposed to ask you to spell it. What if she's just really sure that she said ISIS? Maybe what happened was she just like psychologically made that association, thought it was ISIS. But like ISIS is a name. Some people are named ISIS, so like it's not even.
Bob Dylan wrote a fucking song called ISIS.
I think, isn't there a tranny named ISIS? I think there's a tranny named ISIS.
There's like a metal band called ISIS, I think, or metalcore or some shit.
Yeah, and the Ragnarok online server that I used to play on was called ISIS. Oh no, that was Iris, not ISIS. Whatever, same thing.
Honestly, wasn't it like kind of a meme? People having their names written wrong on Starbucks cups, like 10 years ago. That was a meme going on. A terrible meme, by the way.
Well, yeah.
Oh, my name is actually spelled this way, but they spell it this way. That's so stupid. Ha ha ha.
And this is the thing too. Is I used to work for an answering service, right? And one of our things is that, like usually you take a phone call, you're taking a message because they're at lunch or they're not available, or it's overflowing, whatever the reason may be. It's redirected to us, and our job is to take a simple message. Message will get like automatically emailed. Or sent to a dispatcher who will read it off to someone or whatever the case, right? And like our whole thing is that we have to spell back any name that we take. And when you're doing it, you feel retarded. You feel like oh, John, John or Jon, right? And they have to say with an H or whatever. And you have to spell like names that are kind of, oh, Mary, Mary, right? It always spell out names constantly all the time, even though people are just like, wow, I can't believe that they needed to confirm the spelling of my name. But it's like when you're in a business setting like that, where it's like immortalized through like an email or whatever, names spelled wrong look so unprofessional and so stupid. So like that's part of the service of having like an answering person, is that they nip that in the bud and they make sure it's spelled correctly, and we take the hit of seeming like an incompetent retard that needs to spell out everything, right? But like, I'm trying to imagine having that mindset when, like, literally I'm going to make you a latte and hand it to you and you're going to drink it and throw the cup away, and I have to care what's written on the fucking cup, right? And like when you're in a speedy food environment, I feel like just so much of everything in your being wants to prioritize doing things quickly and not fucking around, that like you're gonna feel like an idiot wanting to spell out things correctly on something that you know is just gonna be like used up and disposed of within an hour or two. You know what I mean?
Honestly, like spelling back the order, like so that's a large burger, fried. That makes sense, but the name, like what? Like
This is great too. They said this is at least the second time a Muslim customer has had ISIS written on their cup at a Starbucks.
at least the second time. Like you see how big of a problem this is. This is horrible.
Time.
2
Well,
times.
but it was last August. This is last year. I don't know. Oh, because his name was Aziz. Aziz. That sounds like ISIS. That actually sounds like it. Aziz could sound like ISIS.
Definitely. Like if his name was Muhammad and they wrote ISIS, I would probably agree that this might be probably was motivated in some way, but Aziz ISIS, come on.
That's fine. I can see that. Okay, this is funny too. She says, as for Starbucks and Target, she said, long term, I don't think I would go back to either of those outlets, right? So fuck Target for having a Starbucks in it that had a potentially maybe racist employee in it. Like, that's the argument. Like, fuck all of the Target store. Like, yeah, that'll show them. Like, I don't... Like, why would... First of all, why would Target even care if you're not buying Starbucks, right? Like, I don't know. It's just stupid.
It also makes you think, because they probably did it because they knew they would get a reaction out of it.
Well, I mean, maybe they were like,
that...
fuck this Muslim woman, let's write ISIS on her cup to make her feel bad. But it's like, it's a name on a cup, right? Like, imagine
I didn't
being
even
that
know
fragile
that
that
Aziz could be a
to you.
woman's name.
Aziz can be a
Like,
woman's
Aziz
name?
can...
No, that was the other event. The separate event was with a man.
The other ISIS was Aziz and she was Aisha.
And she's Aisha, yeah. Which is the name of Muhammad's 13-year-old or 8-year-old or whatever wife. Is Aisha. So she's named
right,
after
but what I'm saying is that her being a Karen over it is just going to encourage people to do.
Since her name is Aisha, her name is almost like more offensive than
That's kind of
ISIS,
funny.
which is kind of funny. Anyway, I'm gonna take I need to go to the bathroom very quickly, but the next thing I have here, which I think is gonna be the last thing for this stream, because I have an errand to run today.
May I say
I gotta go into town to renew my
something
visa,
to do.
which I have mixed feelings about. I'm not even sure I want to. I kind of feel like I want to just go back to Minnesota and just let Black Lives Matter murder me indiscriminately in the streets at this point. But that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, the Karen law, Karen spelled with a C, which is the most offensive thing about this. You guys hear about this shit? The Karen law?
What's the Karen law?
Oh, you didn't hear about it? It's literally a law designed to crack down on Karens.
But the thing...
Oh, okay. Go to the bathroom first, and then we'll...
Well, I can still listen while I'm in the bathroom, so you guys know that I'm not talking.
Yeah, I think I posted that like 2 weeks ago.
So you're just pissing while it's talking.
I have an earpiece, so I can hear you with my Bluetooth while I'm in the bathroom. It's great. So yeah, anyway.
I posted an article about that like 1.5 weeks ago, and I already forgot what Karen with a C means because it's so stupid.
Here, I'll post the link to the article in the chat here. But yeah, it's a San Francisco, like California law.
But I just want to say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jay Willie?
A Muslim have been told something offensive by eating at Starbucks. Like, if someone were to make a parody of stupid things in modern day United States, that's the exact sentence they would write, word by word. It's like so fucking funny that anybody saw.
You're cutting out a lot, dude.
That wasn't. This is fucking. My God. Yeah, I know, it's fucking terrible. I don't know what to do about it though. I think I will find it like, but no, the thing I mentioned is that it's so funny that you said this is not the first time it would happen at Starbucks. You're like, oh my God, fucking Starbucks and Muslim people at BuzzFeed, like this stupidity is like. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can at least.
It just cut out for me.
Oh, good. Well, you saw that was just funny. That like the whole like. Can someone link the article again, because I can't find it in the chat. I can't find it in the anywhere. So if somebody could link me the article about the Muslim woman at Starbucks, that would be so funny, because it's fucking hilarious, dude. It's
yeah, we boo femoid link it in the diff. Let me post it.
I have the
he's getting attacked by the Borg.
Where did you post it?
Hold on. Do you want me to just DM it to you? Or do you want me to? Yeah, I'll just DM it to you in Discord. Boop, doop, doop. Okay, you should get it now.
I go take a piss for like 30
By the way,
seconds.
I'm
and
really
you guys
sad.
And your awkward silences. I can't trust you guys for 1 minute to make conversation while I go take a piss.
I understand what you were saying.
God damn. But no, yeah, if you go to my Discord
I just want to say I'm really.
all of my things are. John Smith says, guys, I'm concerned.
I just want to say, Derek, I'm very sad that you didn't do the weekly stream when I posted the article about skyscrapers looking like penises.
Oh
Extend
shit!
Honey
Yeah,
Badger Radio.
that article. I mean,
they did a video about that one day after you would have had your stream. We would have been first.
Oh, we would have been first. Yeah. Well, you know what? For the next couple of weeks, my fucking job, because there was a COVID outbreak, like the education department closed all the schools again, and my employer is using that as an excuse to like close our centers, basically. Which they're using as an excuse to not pay us, which is illegal. It's a fucking violation of our contracts. But they know that we're not going to do anything about it because, like, they don't have the money, so there's no fucking point. So basically I have, like, another 2 weeks off. Another fucking quarantine, like, self-imposed, basically. That's why I want to die. So I'm just going to, like, hang out in my fucking apartment and eat all my canned food. And make more YouTube videos like I should, I guess. I'm gonna try and be nice and productive or whatever. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Are there no McDonald's in your area?
There are McDonald's in my area. They opened a McDonald's across the street from me like a few weeks after I moved here, as if they knew I was fucking coming. And it's a problem because I'm fat now. I'm fatter than I need to be. I'm just gonna not eat. I'm just gonna starve myself for 2 weeks until I'm pretty again.
I'm bulimic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just made me realize something. How long can McDonald's stay named McDonald's? It has Donald in it.
Oh, don't... I never even noticed that.
Noticed what?
They're gonna be McClintons. They're gonna be McHillary's by the end of the year.
Oh, because of the Donald. Oh, yeah.
Man. Anyway, what does Karen even stand for? Oh, okay. It's Caution Against Racially Exploitative Non-Emergencies Act. Like,
Hilarious.
I wish they had spelled caution with a K instead of making it Karen with a C.
Saren?
I know, it looks so dumb. I hate it.
Form an
In San
acronym
Francisco, the
with an
city called it
intention. Just be smart. Sorry,
San
James?
Francisco, the fucking city called it racist white supremacy to like hose the fecal matter off their sidewalks, weren't they? They
Wait,
called it. They compared it to fuck. They compared it to people like protesting in the '60s getting hosed down. It's like, how do you think of yourselves again? Like, what the fuck?
Oh god, that's equating yourself to shit.
well, okay,
Yeah,
but,
well,
yeah,
you know,
right.
fine.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, so the whole point of the Karen meme is that it's usually women making frivolous complaints. That's kind of the meme and the idea behind it. Yet, despite the fact that it's like deliberately gendered female, they've taken it and appropriated it and made it about white people reporting black people. And like the phenomenon that they're trying to reference is the Becky. The Karen was something different. The Karen complained to the manager, right? The Karen was just making a complaint. They weren't calling police. That was supposed to be what Becky meant, right? But like since Becky wasn't the meme that got popularized, they just went ahead and stole Karen because they knew what their narrative was before the evidence even came in. And it's just annoying because it's like there's it could potentially have been a thing where it's like, hey, like women make frivolous complaints against men too often and we need to crack down on this. But since that's not going to be a socially popular narrative, just idiots, have put it forth in this way to make it about, oh, it's a racist thing, when in actuality, how often is it going to be, like a white man making a frivolous, racially motivated call against a black woman? A lot less often than it should, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, that shit doesn't really. Right. Of course, we all know that shit doesn't even really fucking happen, right? I mean, it's usually like some brainwashed, emboldened blade, uh, going out of their way to fuck with a Karen, and then the Karen just grovels and says, "Please hurt me, please don't cancel me," and then of course they get canceled, right? Like that's what it really is, right? There is no white on black, like false 911, like really, is there?
Yeah, I'm gonna doubt it, to be honest. Well, the other thing too is that it's like when you're reporting things that you're suspicious of, your suspicions to some degree are going to be based on reality, or at least on like a perception of reality. And when crime is this like ludicrously disproportionate, of course that perception is going to incorporate race. They're mandating that people don't notice patterns.
Honestly, like the
Yeah.
examples I remember was like this white woman, a fat lady, calling the cops on a group of black people barbecuing in a space where it's illegal to barbecue, and they said that was racist. And I think that's just a person being very annoying with like following the rules to a T. Like, I don't know if this woman wouldn't have called the cops if there was white people or Hispanics barbecuing illegally, because technically she was right. It was illegal.
Yeah, well, and then same thing with there was the woman in the park, right? And originally I was on the wrong side of it. Originally I thought, oh, this is like a hysterical woman abusing her dog on camera and calling police and making a false report, which like to some degree she was hyperbolizing and being like a retard, right? But the guy was a fucking weirdo, like who just like goes to a park and brings dog treats to like feed other people's dogs, like it's just like I don't know. Apparently, she got charged or like convicted of something. So, however that story developed, but anyway.
But it's also how the Karen law reads is like, if you are calling the cops on some people in your vicinity that are doing something actually illegal, yeah, I don't think that should apply to that. But it seems like it would be like, oh, are you white and are they black? Like that. If that question is anything a police ever asks, I think that's a racist law.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too, though, is a lot of these examples they're giving involve people who actually are breaking laws.
Like, shouldn't you call the police if you see someone breaking the law? Like, it depends on how lenient you are about breaking the law, which law they're breaking. But technically, anyone who does that is not doing anything wrong.
Well, in these days, cops are lenient up to and including arson and murder. So I guess no, never call the cops on a black person. That's the point.
Yeah, cops are kind of retarded nowadays.
Slavery 200 years ago, therefore, don't ever call the cops on black people no matter what they're doing. Which way,
Exactly.
Western man?
But on something only loosely related, earlier when you said like for the crime rates, it was a man thing, not a black thing. I wanted to say, but it was a bit convoluted, that yesterday a 20-year-old Frenchman he fell out of the 6th floor of an apartment building, and the next morning, like he fell in at 2 o'clock. Is that in the night? I don't know AM and PM well. And 6 hours later, they also already said, like there was a 2-hour fight going on in that apartment, and they were very sure before anybody even examined the body that this was an accident. Like there were 2 women screaming and 1 man screaming, and he just fell off the balcony by accident. And for personal reasons, I know that building because my mother's boyfriend's mother lives there, and you can fall off that balcony by accident. It has a really high railing. This man was pushed, but the only people who could have pushed him were female. Therefore, it was an accident. End of story. That can't be murder. Because women don't commit murders, you know?
Of course
This
not.
was in Europe. Yeah. Because that's weird. Yeah, that's fucked.
So maybe the murder statistics of women is so low because police will just say, nah. Like, he has a knife in his back and it has her fingerprints on it, but of course it has the fingerprints on it because she's the one who cooks. Must have been a stranger who used gloves.
I mean, we're able to like admit that I don't want to derail it, but like we're able to admit that, there's things about male nature that leads them to be more prone to committing sexual crimes compared to women. But then we also don't admit the fact that maybe there's things in female nature that could provide them a more inclination to be violent. And the only reason why they're not really able to, say, I don't know, kill men really is because obviously they're a lot weaker than men. Because like if you think about it, because women really don't love men, at least not the way that men love women, there's more inclination there for women to just fucking go psychotic on them. Don't you think?
This was something that because we've brought this up on other streams too, that in Switzerland you guys had that law that was basically like men can like men can discipline physically their wives or whatever. There's some antiquated kind of idea, and then at the time it was banned, all the men were like, "Whoa, that was a law! Like we had no idea. Like we would never even think to do that." And then you juxtapose that with women just making like ludicrous false claims just like all the fucking time, and yeah, it's pretty blackpilling. So there's that.
Yeah. The beatings will continue until morale improves, or until
Actually,
men
he sent me a
find
video
facts.
about something about like rape accusations in Spain. And I think I'll take a look at that a little bit later today, but haven't quite been in the mood to see more evidence on false rape accusations. Just cause
Spain is a horrible place for men these days.
seems
Literally
like it.
no proof necessary. Instant, what's the word? Where you can't get close to someone. Restrain. What's the word?
Not probation. But what's it called? An order. What kind of order?
Is it restrainment?
Restraining order. Yeah, restraining
order.
Yeah.
Like they issue that before anything is cleared at all, and then they just don't investigate, so it just stays in place. That's that used to be Spain like over 10 years ago, and it certainly got worse since then.
Yeah.
They took the believe woman argument to the logical end of the process, where you just have to assume, like even here, if there's a call about domestic violence, even if it's a man calling the police, the man will get arrested.
John Smith clarified in the chat, castration order. Basically.
Yep. Sounds about right, sadly.
Alright, well I'm gonna wrap up the stream here because I got my errand to run. I gotta go downtown and hang out in the immigration office so that I'm not, I don't know, like an illegal person, I guess.
But
socially
Not that
distance.
they'll do anything about it. The fucking government's not operative here fucking anyway. Not that it would even matter, but I like to keep things above board. So I have to go and get my official government stamp on the thing. Korean man, no, I didn't move. My thing is just expiring, so I have to have it renewed. Yeah, I'm still in Hong Kong. So they're fairly efficient.
Hey, thanks for having me on the stream, bro.
No, dude, thanks for coming by. Yeah, and if you're ever interested in hopping on, I try to usually have the streams like around this time. Like basically how it works. I used to like send people links if I thought maybe they were interested in hopping on, and then I found that it was stressful. So instead, what I do is like if I notice like a friend of the channel in the chat, then I just like toss you the link if you're interested in hopping on. So.
Yeah. By the way, Duerst, do you have a Discord?
He does, yeah.
Yes, I do. I got a Telegram.
Yeah, I was wondering how I could get in.
I got a Telegram. Do you guys use Telegram and all that stuff?
Do I use Telegram?
I have Telegram, but I
Yeah.
don't use it. Maybe I should get in the habit of using that one. I remember I told you about my skepticism toward Parlay or Parlor, however we're pronouncing it, which was just based on Nick Rekieta did a stream where he was going through their TOS and he was like not happy with them at all. So I felt like, oh, maybe I'll skip that one,
But yeah, I love your channel. You get like all the most hilarious shit that I just like binge watch.
your channel makes me not want to go outside.
It's both very good stuff and very horrifying stuff.
I'm hoping that's sort of the worry that I had. Like, well, it's kind of going that cope tube that we were talking about. Like, I thought that we were waking people up, but I think actually have the unintended consequences, like people getting afraid and not standing up.
Yeah,
but
it's a fair
at the very
point.
least, people. At the very least, maybe people are informed. Maybe that's the most important thing.
Or maybe
They're not
you're
being centrists
cultivating
anymore.
a silent majority, maybe. Part of that force, I guess.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess that's kind of that was the tone of the whole stream. Is everything's fucked, everything's just miserable and awful, and there's absolutely no hope. So everyone have a nice day.